A dazzling flame burst up into the sky as it illuminated half of the sky, dispersing a portion of the fog around the cliff. This was a genuine true phoenix flame, and its might was incomparably powerful. Those few magical beasts which were flying in front of little Phoenix were torched by the flame as they were incinerated on the spot. Immediately following that, those few magical beasts by the side which were implicated couldn't withstood the overbearing might as all of them started to retreat. Little Wang Cai succeeded in a single move and was feeling proud and elated at itself as it excitedly flapped its wings while raising its little head, showing off a complacent look. However, Huang Yueli and Li Moying's expression turned totally terrible. No good. This little thing indeed isn't able to withstand pressure. The situation has turned even worse now. As expected, not long after little Wang Cai had turned complacent, the surrounding dispersed magical beasts just revolved for a little while and started gathering together to attack it again. Further, the thick fog around the cliff kept on emitting wings flapping sound. Apparently, many other magical beasts were heading over here. Little Phoenix then realized that it seemed to have gotten into trouble. Although these magical beasts were dispersed for a short moment, the desire to swallow its energy was extremely intense. Not only did they not get scared off by the true phoenix flame, on the contrary, as it had caused an intense profound energy fluctuation, it attracted even more magical beasts instead as they kept charging towards it, wanting to have a share of the cake. Little Phoenix's heart was filled with terror, but it was too late for regrets. Magical beasts all started to attack towards it. Huang Yueli and Li Moying simultaneously struck back. Since they had already been exposed, then they need not hold back as they used their profound skills. But alas, all these were in vain. Little Phoenix's injuries were getting heavier and moreover in the intense battle, its profound energy was exhausted. Very soon, it was left with nothing much. Fe. Female devil, I think I can't hold on any longer, you too. Little Wang Cai hemmed and hawed, and before it could finish its words, its body shook violently and later on, in a visible speed, it speedily shrank. Huang Yueli's expression changed. What the, do you need to be so fraud? Can't you just hang on for a while longer? For your chicken drumsticks. I've already reached my limit. It's of no use even if I ate 100 chicken drumsticks. Boo-hoo, female devil, will I die? If we go to hell in future, you must make chicken drumsticks for me. Huang Yueli gritted her teeth out of anger. You can go meet Hades yourself. I'm not going, and you can keep dreaming about me making you chicken drumsticks. Although she said that, she knew clearly that this time, they would probably really have misfortune befalling onto them. Under so many magical beasts' relentless attacks, Little Phoenix was completely overwhelmed, and both she and Li Moying didn't have any wings, so basically they weren't able to fly up the cliff to leave this dangerous central region. Li Moying understood this as well, but he was much calmer than Huang Yueli. The more dangerous moment he faced, the calmer he was. He quickly made a resolute decision. Now there's no other ways. Since we can't fly up, then we can only fly down. We must immediately land. Huang Yueli went into a blank but quickly came around it. That's right, we can only reach the bottom of the cliff now and think of a way out later. She patted Little Phoenix. Wang Cai, quickly bring out whatever profound energy you have left right now. Try to persist on as long as you can. Whether we can land successfully or not will depend on your last performance. You can also listen on. Li Moying was observing the surroundings as he commanded. I'll count to 3. Leah and I will strike together, fully unleashing our profound skills to disperse the surrounding magical beasts. Wang Cai must immediately charge downwards, fighting to safely arrive at the bottom of the cliff before you shrink back to your original physique. Do you understand it all clearly? 1, 2, 3. Following Li Moying's command, Huang Yueli's surrounding profound skills lifted to the extreme as she suddenly struck out. An intense flame coiled around from her body as it ferociously swept the surrounding magical beasts with its blazing heat. Her flame was a mix between the true phoenix flame and amethyst thunder flame. When combined with the exclusive profound skills from the sacred phoenix race, it formed into a special combusted deviant flame where the might was much stronger than true phoenix flame alone, by 1-fold. Although the magical beasts around her were all 6th grade and above, but under such a strong flame, they had no way to ward it off. After the foremost few dropped from the skies, the others all scattered as they escaped for their lives. Li Moying's move was even more straightforward. The magical beast in front of him was already used to his strength before he used his profound energy and thought that his ability was just SOSO. Hence, after he suddenly exploded his profound energy, they were caught unaware as thunder swept past them, and in an instant, they were all struck down, not leaving a single beast alive. The surrounding magical beasts around them were cleared in an extremely short amount of time. Little Phoenix did not face any more obstructions in front of it. Although it was already exhausted, but right now, it still forcibly lifted a breath and used up all its energy to dive towards the bottom of the cliff. Its speed was too fast, and Huang Yueli lost her balance as she swayed around its back and almost fell off. Luckily, Li Moying grabbed hold of her wrist and pulled her back. Huang Yueli immediately grabbed hold of Wang Cai's feathers on its back as she lowered her body, following Little Phoenix's actions, sticking to its back tightly. Wang Cai's body was slowly shrinking, but it continued to dive downwards. Li Moying stood up occasionally, attracting lightning to disperse all the obstructions which came near Wang Cai. It took only 10 over breaths and Wang Cai had already charged over 1,000 over a meter of distance. Huang Yueli was on its back and could see the bottom of the cliff with her eyes. But at this moment, Wang Cai's profound energy had been completely exhausted and its body shrank to such a tiny size that the both of them could no longer stand on its back. What was most dangerous was the nearer it went near the ground, the more magical beasts gathered around. Especially after Li Moying showed his profound energy without any restraint, many magical beasts all surged towards this place after sensing it. On seeing that Wang Cai had turned into the size of an ostrich, Li Moying grabbed Huang Yueli's waist tightly as he whispered softly by her ear, "Right now, 3, 2, 1, jump." Li Moying brought Huang Yueli along as they jumped straight into the bottom of the cliff. Huang Yueli's hand wound around Li Moying's waist tightly while the other kept on gesticulating incantation gestures, speedily moving little Wang Cai into the Sky Phoenix ring. Li Moying's thunder wings appeared on his back and it flapped lightly, diminishing the huge impact of their descent. The duo crashed heavily on the ground and Li Moying hugged Huang Yueli in her arms as they rolled on the ground several times. "Leah, are you all right?" Li Moying propped up his body as he lowered his head to question anxiously. Huang Yueli shook her head. "I'm fine, why would I not be? You've protected me so well. How about you? Are you hurt?" "Ah, you're bleeding." She grabbed Li Moying's arm and saw a wound which was seeping blood on his shoulder. "You can also listen on." This man had always protected her well in his arms, deeply worried that she would suffer a single bit of harm but totally downplayed his own injuries. Li Moying turned back and took a look, just a minor injury. "If you didn't mention it, I wouldn't have noticed at all." Saying that, he looked behind Huang Yueli and frowned. "It's simply too dangerous here, we must leave immediately." Huang Yueli turned her head around to see a large heap of magical beasts charging towards them. Apparently the thunder wings which Li Moying had exhibited when they descended caused a huge profound energy fluctuation, hence causing quite a bit of trouble for them. "What are you still waiting for? Run quickly." Huang Yueli held on to Li Moying's hand as they fled desperately. A few days later. Cloudy Chalene Mystic Region, gathering point at the entrance. Before entering the Cloudy Chalene Mystic Region, Kui Yuanshan and the others had already clarified that the activation of the Mystic Region would only be for a short period of 1 month. Now that 1 month's period was up, according to the two large sects' agreement, today would be the day where the sect's elders cooperated to reactivate the entrance, so Celestial Light Sect and Green Cloud Sect's disciples must all gather at the entrance, to await for the passage to be reactivated. Right now, the gathering point was filled with disciples from both large sects and they were all huddled together in groups, exchanging the experience and knowledge which they had been through in the Mystic Region. This was the first time for a large number of them to enter the ancient Mystic Region. For those who were able to leave this place alive, all of them had reaped their own benefits, and although they had met with danger, but their abilities were lifted quickly. Quite a number of them had obtained several treasures and were all revealing joyful looks, feeling extremely excited. Naturally, Cloudy Chalene Mystic Region was filled with danger all around and not everyone was able to leave safely. As time went by slowly, Some people had eventually not appeared. Quite a number of them revealed shocked expressions as they started to discuss secretly. It's only less than 1 hour before the time to exit this place is up. Those who aren't able to gather here, does it mean that they have met with an accident in the mystic region? Most likely. If not, why would they drag on until now and still not gather here? Aren't they afraid that they'd miss the timing to leave? Isn't that so? I heard my master say this before, that every time there were direct disciples entering the mystic region, there would at least be 30% of them who were lost. We should really count our lucky stars that we are able to leave this place in one piece. But, have you guys realized something? A celestial light sect disciple hemmed and hawed. What? What are you trying to say? Have you discovered that, young sect master? Until now he still hadn't appeared. This person finally couldn't take it and blurted it out. His voice wasn't very soft and many people around them heard that. All of them lifted up their heads and searched around for Li Moying. However, no matter how they looked, they were not able to find that legendary, shockingly powerful number 1 genius in South Sky region. Heavens, young sect master, he really hasn't gathered here yet. Why is it like that? Where has he gone to? Not only him, junior sister Bai is missing too. There's also senior brother Li and senior sister Murong. Green Cloud sect's eldest disciple Lung Yifeng hasn't appeared too. Surely not, right? What's the situation now? Could it be that I've got the gathering date wrong? So many top exponents and their abilities are the top amongst all of them. How would they all suddenly go missing? Could it be that they have all gotten into an accident in the mystic region? And already, you can also listen on. Pooey pooey pooey. What nonsense are you sprouting? How would young sect master possibly have a mishap in a mere cloudy Chilean mystic region? Even people like us are able to get here in one piece. That might be hard to say. Young sect master's cultivation is much higher than us, that's for sure. But he would definitely go to more dangerous places to seek opportunities, and the opportunities which he meets should be much more dangerous than what we can imagine. So how would you know that he had not met with unexpected failure? This man's words immediately raised the displeasure of all Celestial Light Sect's disciples. Anyway, it's just not possible. Young sect master will definitely not get into a mishap. That's right, you crowbeak fellow, scram to one side. How dare you curse young sect master? Don't you be too delighted. Based on what you said, why hasn't your eldest disciple Lung Yifeng appeared as well? Could he also have gotten into a mishap? The scene instantly escalated into a berating scene, and that Green Cloud sect disciple was scolded till he didn't dare to make a single sound. Amidst this chaos, under the tree shade, Luo Jiun didn't move at all while leaning against the tree trunk. Hearing the surrounding disturbances one after another, his expression was cold as he didn't say a single word. Ever since that matter that happened by the cliff, he seemed to have matured overnight. The effect of the medicinal pills which Huang Yueli gave was very good. After taking it continuously for 3 days, his injuries had mostly recovered, and at the very least, he didn't lay limp on the ground and was able to move around. He stayed by the cliff for a long period of time while keeping track of the various flames and lightning coming from the cliff below, and also heard those miserable shrills from those magical beasts which were struck down. He thought that Li Moying would be the same as before, suddenly appearing on the top of the cliff in one piece. But time and days went by. The duo who had dropped down the cliff did not return eventually. Luo Joyan tried to climb down the cliff to look for them, but unfortunately he had barely reached the 200 meters mark and almost died in the magical beasts' mouths. After experiencing many near deaths, he finally made it back to the top of the cliff luckily. He waited till the last day when the mystic region was going to be reactivated, but Li Moying and Huang Yueli still hadn't returned. Furthermore, the cliff below stopped giving off various rays, and he really couldn't tell if they had met with real danger or if they had left the place through other means. Luo Jiun refused to believe that top experts like Li Moying and Huang Yueli's kind of ability, wisdom and luck, they would die just because of a few villain schemes. Hence, he carried a sliver of hope, wishing that he would be able to see the duo's sudden appearance at the gathering point. Perhaps there was some other route below the cliff and they might not have to climb up the cliff. Alas, the final result was that it was all his own wishful thinking and he had been self-comforting himself. The gathering point was filled with people, but the duo whom he wanted to meet was totally missing. Following the mystic region's reactivation time nearing, Luo Jiyun's heart grew heavier and heavier. Why did it turn out like this? Eldest senior brother was so powerful and Lil sister-in-law was so intelligent. They had met with countless near-death crises but had been through it all. Why did they fall right here this time round? Just as he was feeling incomparably guilty, wishing that he could just throw himself at the wall to kill himself, suddenly a voice was heard from his right side. Mr. Luo, I wonder if you've met my master and third miss in the mystic region? Luo Jiyun raised his head and saw all Li Moying's shadow guards standing in front of him, all bearing an anxious expression. His heart thumped wildly, and the minute he opened his mouth, he discovered that his voice was extremely hoarse. About this, spitting noises you can also listen on. Mo Yi's hand gripped the handle of his sword which hung around his waist as he frowned and said, based on our master and third miss abilities, by right they wouldn't get into any trouble here. But they haven't appeared for such a long time, so I really am worried over this. I heard that you, master and some others had entered a cave dwelling together. Do you know where they went later on? Li Moying's shadow guards naturally were 100% confident towards their master. Others might underestimate Li Moying's ability, but as his most trusted aides, how would they not know just how powerful was Li Moying? His innate talent seemed to not have a limit, and no matter under what kind of situation, he was able to do something which other people thought was impossible. That kind of power was something which no one could hope to surpass, only bowing down in revere towards him. So right from the start, even when those people were in discussions, Mo Yi and the rest didn't feel that there was anything to be worried about. How could their master ever get into any trouble? They had not appeared. Probably because he was getting intimate with third miss and had forgotten the time. But now that it was only left with a quarter of an hour to the time of activation of the entrance, there were still no signs of their whereabouts, so it was just too ridiculous. Shadow guards couldn't sit still as they exchanged information, only to discover that none of them had met Li Moying in the mystic region. Out of desperation, they could only turn to Luo Jiyun for help. Luo Jiyun was feeling frustrated, not knowing how to answer. Just at this moment, another voice was heard. That's right, Master Luo. You indeed should explain properly and give us an explanation. Luo Jiyun turned his head around and saw Fang Xiaoning's gloomy look, standing right next to him. His brows creased. Explanation? What explanation? Fang Xiaoning said, 10 days ago, a few of our Green Cloud Sect's disciples were near the central region and saw with their own eyes that you and Murong Fei were holding on to a drawing as you took the risk to enter the central region. Later on, my eldest senior brother and your sect's Li Lingchuan were together as they also went in. Later on, some others also saw Li Moying and Bai Ruoli barging in. When Fang Xiaoning said that, he immediately caused a bustle among the other disciples. Surely not right? So many 6th-stage realm top experts and they all entered the central region. Before we entered the mystic region, hadn't sect master already instructed us not to enter the central region? Otherwise there is a high chance of not making it out. How would they even dare to enter that place? Are you silly? These few people are the top talents in both sects. Hadn't you heard of the saying abled people are normally bold? But, that's the central region. I've heard that even 9th-stage realm practitioners aren't guaranteed to be able to leave safely. In that case, that person's guess earlier was true? Have they really met with a mishap? The more Luo Jiyun heard their discussions, the uglier his expression got. However, Fang Xiaoning kept on persisting in his questions. Mr. Luo, so many of them had entered the central region, but you're the only one who had returned alive, whereas the rest of them had all gone missing. Surely you need to give us an explanation on why the others have gone missing. Furthermore, among so many people there, only my eldest senior brother is a disciple of Green Cloud Sect. I have all the reasons to suspect that you Celestial Light Sect people have joined hands to do harm to him. Fang Xiaoning's words were indeed provocative as Green Cloud Sect's disciples all crowded around when they heard that. That's right, something's fishy going on here. You can also listen on. Luo Jiyun definitely knows something, so we must make him say it out. That's right, if anything were to happen to senior brother Leng, then we must make Celestial Light Sect pay the price for it. Celestial light sect's disciples were all feeling furious over this as they crowded around and started arguing with green cloud sect's disciples. You'd better all scram further away. On what basis do you have to spill dirty water on our celestial light sect's disciples? Is Leng Yifeng the only one who's missing? Even our young sect master isn't out as well. Should we count this debt onto you green cloud sect people? One couldn't blame them for being so agitated. If there were any losses, Celestial Light Sect would definitely be the side which resulted in severe damages. They had 4 top experts who had mysteriously gone missing, as compared to Green Cloud Sect's only top expert, which was Leng Yifeng. Now, Fang Xiaoning pushed the entire responsibility to Celestial Light Sect, and the disciples totally couldn't agree to it. 2 sect's disciples were arguing over this, but Fang Xiaoning totally ignored them, only starting intently at Luo Jiyun. Master Luo, what on earth is going on? You'd better explain this clearly. After all, your Celestial Light Sect has suffered quite a heavy damage as well, so shouldn't you give your fellow disciples an explanation as well? Hearing that, everyone quietened down, all looking towards Luo Jiyun. Luo Jiyun was originally feeling very frustrated and had no mood to say anything more. The minute he recalled that scenario, strong guilt and misery started to crush him completely. But Fang Xiaoning kept on chasing after him, asking and asking once and again, making the anger in his heart grew wider and wider, as he simply could not endure it any further. He raised his head sharply as he stared at Fang Xiaoning, deadly, giving off a cold smile. All right, you insist on finding out the truth, eh? Then I shall tell you. Luo Jiyun had been hanging his head low and not giving off any sound, so Fang Xiaoning thought that he was afraid of himself. Now when the both of them exchanged glances, Luo Jiyun's look made everyone so shocked that they withdrew a breath of cold air. His face had been stained with drops of blood and a large patch of muddy ash, while his entire face was grayish-green. His anxious and despondent look paired with his dark eye circles were deep and large, looking no different from a ghost. But unfortunately his eyes revealed a strange coldness, like a lone wolf on a patch of grassland who would take a bite at anyone who came up to him. When Fang Xiaoning saw him, his stance immediately weakened. What do you mean by this? Luo Jiyun laughed coldly. You want to know the truth, so I'll tell you, as long as you don't find it embarrassing. Your eldest senior brother hasn't been harmed by our sect's disciple. Instead, he had colluded with Li Lingchuan and Murong Fei to set up this trap, just so that they could scheme and harm our young sect master. When Fang Xiaoning heard that, he totally refused to believe it. What you said is just too funny. How could my eldest senior brother possibly mix around with Celestial Light Sect's disciples? Then wouldn't he become Green Cloud Sect's traitor? Why did he need to do such a thing? It's true that he and Li Moying had always been disagreeable, but young sect master Li's ability is much higher than his. Moreover, there doesn't seem to be any deep-set vengeance between the two of them, so does it need to be like this? Luo Jiyun chuckled and swept him with a disdainful glance. You feel that it's impossible? Of course there's a reason for him to do this. It's because he had taken an interest in eldest senior brother's fiancée Miss Bai. I think you probably don't know about this, right? Leng Yifeng had already expressed his feelings to Miss Bai several times secretly, saying that his status is extremely valuable and is the descendant of Sky Emperor City's Leng family. He asked her to ditch eldest senior brother to be together with him. Regarding this matter, Mo Yi and the others can vouch for me. You can also listen on. What? How is that possible? Stop slandering others. How could my senior brother even take interest in? Fang Xiaoning expressed his disdain towards Huang Yueli, but speaking about it halfway, he was unable to continue. Huang Yueli's innate talent and beauty was obvious. Even for a descendant from a large family like Leng Yifeng, it wasn't a strange matter for him to develop admiration towards her. Even for Fang Xiaoning, who was on the opposing team, could not summon courage to speak blindly. However, the last time at the arena stage when Leng Yifeng specially came out to stop him from hurting Huang Yueli, it had already caused Fang Xiaoning to be suspicious. This time round, Celestial Light Sect's disciples were all rummaging with anger. Damn it! This is simply too shameless. Is he even worthy of our junior sister Bai? A toad lusting for a swan's flesh. How dare you belittle our young sect master? Using your status to suppress us? Why don't you compare between the two's ability and innate talent? Really trash. Fang Xiaoning's expression flushed a pink shade of embarrassment, but he quickly changed his tone. Even if my senior brother took interest in Miss Bai, that doesn't mean anything because Li Moying hadn't even officially married her. Moreover speaking, how glorious is your celestial light sect? Li Lingchuan and others are all disciples from celestial light sect, so how did he conspire with my senior brother to harm your sect's young sect master? Luo Jiyun's face was filled with hostility. Li Lingchuan, this despicable man, isn't it all because of the position of young sect master? He thought that if he caused eldest senior brother's death, he would take over the position of young sect master. Furthermore, he even shamelessly colluded with Lung Yifeng. Luckily they all got what they deserved and they're all now probably all dead. But my pitiful eldest senior brother and Miss Bai, they have been murdered, these three few scums. They are really too pitiful. As he was narrating, his nose suddenly felt a sourish sensation as his tears started to flow down. Everyone at the scene all turned silent when they saw that. Even Green Cloud Sect's disciples couldn't be bothered to argue but were all stunned by this explosive news till they weren't able to react. Li Moying really died. That publicly known South Sky region's #1 genius Li Moying, with overpowering innate talent which no one could surpass, he actually, really died in cloudy Qilin mystic region? This matter sounded just too unfathomable. It was simply unimaginable. After all, Li Moying was simply too strong. He had a well-known reputation among the younger generation in the Four Sky regions. There was even a rumor that even for the #1 top expert in soaring heavens continent Mu Chengying, his innate talent and speed in advancement in his younger days was not comparable to Li Moying's. This kind of genius would definitely become a leading character in soaring heavens continent in future. How could he have died silently in one mystic region's training? But this news actually came from Luo Jiyun's mouth. As Li Moying's closest junior brother and a witness, the words that he said were extremely convincing, which was unable to make anyone doubt it. It took a while before Fang Xiaoning regained his senses as he burst out laughing. Ha 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 ha, so interesting, it's just too interesting. Li Moying actually died just like that. Isn't he very amazing? Wasn't he said to be able to battle someone beyond his stage realm, or even challenge an elementary 9th stage realm top expert? He actually died in the cloudy Qilin mystic region? The Shadow Guard's expression changed and Mo Yi's hand kept trembling, almost unable to grab his sword. He walked up front and with a shaking voice, he continued interrogating, Master Luo, are you absolutely certain? You can also listen on. Luo Jiyun didn't dare to look at Mo Yi directly as he lowered his head. I saw Murong Fei pushing down little sister-in-law down the cliff with my own eyes, and after that eldest senior brother immediately jumped down after her. When Mo Yi heard that, he heaved a sigh of relief. If it's just jumping down the cliff, it shouldn't be life-threatening. Master isn't an ordinary practitioner, he probably just couldn't find a way out. Luo Jiyun, however, wasn't as optimistic as him as he clenched his teeth and said, but the cliff below should be cloudy Qilin mystic region's central region. I had been down there previously, and 300 to 400 meters down that cliff were numerous flying magical beasts. All of them are of 6th grade and above. They would also automatically attack those practitioners who intrude that place, and it is an extremely dangerous and perilous place. The cliff below is filled with thick fog and it's practically impossible to see how deep it is, nor can you see the situation below. But one thing for sure is it is even more dangerous in the valley below. Mo Yi then started to turn anxious as his brows creased together tightly. The gathering point exploded with bustle as everyone was discussing Li Moying's disappearance. Almost everyone was certain that Li Moying was probably dead. Our sect master had once said that if anyone was stuck in the central region, even a 9th stage realm practitioner was unable to get out. No matter how powerful young sect master Li is, surely he's not comparable to a genuine 9th stage realm practitioner, right? That's right. Furthermore, even if it's not dead now, later when the mystic region closes up, he will have no way to leave the cloudy Qilin mystic region. That's right. In this way, he would no longer be known in the South Sky region in future. Everyone sighed in sadness. Fang Xiaoning also stopped pursuing the whereabouts of Lung Yifeng. Having provoked Li Moying, Leng Yifeng definitely did not meet with a good ending, but to be able to wipe off Li Moying before he died, he was really not simple as well. Later when he left the mystic region, he only needed to report truthfully to his sect master. Just as this moment, the ground suddenly shook violently as sand and stones flew while cracks started to appear on the ground. After a short moment of confusion, someone cried out in joy, "Look quickly! The entrance to the mystic region has appeared. The designated timing has reached, so it must be the sect's elders who are activating the mystic region from the outside. We can finally leave this place." Everyone lifted their heads and indeed saw a black entrance appearing by the side of the mystic region, exactly the same one as when they entered. Many of them immediately heaved a long sigh of relief. Although there were many opportunities in the mystic region and everyone had reaped some rewards, but it was simply too dangerous here. Especially after the news of the unparalleled genius Li Moying who had gotten into trouble, all the more the others didn't want to continue staying in this place. Anyway, they have all gotten some treasures and it was simply great that they could leave this place as soon as possible. Originally Celestial Light Sect's leader was Li Moying while Green Cloud Sect's leader was Leng Yifeng. But now that these two people had gone missing, the situation instantly became messy and everyone was fighting to pass through the entrance to leave this place. Green Cloud Sect's side was still alright because at least Fang Xiaoning's words were still of use. Celestial Light Sect was disoriented. They had a greater number of people and the only direct disciple whose status was slightly higher was Luo Jiyun, and he was totally unable to maintain the order. Mo Yi and the rest raised up their heads and after taking a look at the direction of the entrance, they suddenly seemed to have agreed on something together and turned around to walk away simultaneously. Luo Jiyun immediately jumped up and chased after them while asking, "Wait, you guys, where are you guys heading off to? You can also listen on." Mo Yi's footstep paused but he didn't turn back. "Master Luo, we will stay behind to save Master and Third Miss." Luo Jiyun asked, "But, in this way, you will not be able to leave the cloudy Qilin mystic region. Without both sects' elders to activate the mystic region together, you have no chance to leave this place." Mo Yi sighed softly. "To tell the truth, I don't believe that Master would die just like that. You also haven't seen Master dying in front of you with your own eyes, right? I believe Master is definitely alive, but we're not sure what situation he had met with down the cliff, so he should be trapped. At this point in time, how could we possibly leave just for our own safety? This is considered as betraying our Master. Even if there is a possibility, if Master is indeed in trouble, we cannot allow ourselves to live on alone. Not being able to protect our Master properly is originally our sin, so even if we die, we bear no grudges. Master Luo, don't bother about us and leave the mystic region quickly. Don't miss the timing." Saying that, Mo Yi turned around and the few of them shadow guards all left swiftly. Hearing that, Luo Jiyun stayed silent for a moment and suddenly started to chase after them. "Wait a minute, brother Mo Yi, I'll go with you guys to save eldest senior brother, I will not leave too." When Mo Yi heard that, he frowned. "Master Luo, you need not do that. We are shadow guards and young sect master is our master, so we must stay behind. But you're different. You have a great future before you and you need not be trapped in the mystic region because of Master. If Master manages to leave that place someday, seeing you here will not make him happy." Luo Jiyun anxiously said, "Brother Mo Yi, don't stop me. Eldest senior brother met with danger this time round was all because he tried to save me. I had fallen into Murong Fei's scheme, hence I dragged eldest senior brother and little sister-in-law down. If I were to leave like this, my conscience would be pricked, so I must follow you guys to save them." He had just finished his words when another voice was heard from his back. "Me as well, I'll go with you guys." The person who said that was Yuan Ziyu. Mo Yi was stunned. Yuan Ziyu appeared to be relaxed as he smiled. "I'm Third Miss Men, so surely it cannot only be young sect master's subordinates who stays behind only, right?" Mo Yi sized them up and prudently nodded. "As long as you have all thought over this carefully and not regret it, then follow me. Below the cliff. These magical beasts have too much determination. They have been prowling in wait for 3 days and 3 nights and they still aren't leaving?" Huang Yueli asked gloomily. She and Li Moying were now inside a cave. Yesterday, after they descended at the bottom of the cliff, They immediately came under the pursuit of a group of magical beasts. While they were running wildly for their lives, they chanced upon a narrow passageway in between the mountains and hurriedly squeezed in only to discover that there was a cave inside. Furthermore, the cave was rather huge. Therefore the two of them started to split up their work. Li Moying was in charge of blocking those magical beasts which pursued them to the front of the cave, while Huang Yueli was responsible for setting up an invisibility and defense array in front of the cave's entrance. After the array was set up, the two of them heaved a sigh of relief. The layout of the cave wasn't bad at all, and with this array, they only needed to ensure to change the magical beast core in the crux of the array and it would deflect a large portion of the attacks. Occasionally, when there were slightly incredible magical beasts which broke through the restraint, they would also be blocked by Li Moying. But these magical beasts' determination had surpassed their imagination. Originally they thought that they only needed to wait for several hours and the magical beasts would all disperse, then they were able to leave this place. But in the end, 3 days had passed and they were still trapped in the cave. You can also listen on. This can't continue on, we need to think of a way to leave this place as soon as possible, Huang Yueli frowned. Li Moying's expression was grave. The designated activation date is left with only 3 days. If we're not able to leave here from the central region, then I'm afraid that we will be trapped in the cloudy Chilean mystic region. By then, if we want to leave this place, it'd be extremely difficult. Huang Yueli said, this is hard to do. It's easy for us to leave this cave, but once we're out, if we're being chased so many magical beasts, how could we possibly find a way out? Furthermore what? Li Moying saw her keeping silent as he nudged her to continue. Furthermore, this valley is shrouded with fog which doesn't dissipate all year round. And there are so many high-leveled magical beasts which can swallow profound energy. This itself isn't very normal. Have you noticed that some magical beasts' ability in flying is very strong, but when we're up on the cliff, no matter what profound skills we use, we did not attract any magical beast. But the minute we went down to a distance of 100 to 200 meters, we'd be tangled. That could only explain one problem. Li Moying seemed to have understood something. You're saying that this valley is actually enveloped by a large-sized array? Huang Yueli blinked. You can classify it as an array, but this is not an ordinary array. It can directly change the valley's heaven and earth rule, even causing these magical beasts' nature to undergo changes. It's a major work of a sky-high structure. Only ancient god clans are able to do so. Li Moying dropped his eyelids as he muttered softly, in this way, Cloudy Chilean clan was originally an important ancient clan, and there are plenty of practitioners who have reached the god realm. It's not surprising for god grades array masters to be able to set up with this kind of array. What you say is correct, but in this way, we're in deep *T. If we still can't find a way to decode the array, then we probably would never be able to go out for eternity. Huang Yueli was feeling rather frustrated as her delicate face appeared to be a sign of melancholy. Li Moying pacified her as he caressed her face while speaking in a deep voice, "Don't worry, we'll definitely be able to find a way out." Huang Yueli rose her head and met with that pair of bewitching peach blossom eyes. In an instant, she seemed to be sucked into that pair of deep gaze as she nodded her head blankly. Actually, she also knew that the difficulties placed in front of them now was simply unimaginable. But with this man by her side saying such consoling words, she suddenly felt at ease, as though there was nothing to be terrified of. Because they had been working hand in hand for so many years and experienced innumerable dangers, hadn't they all been through it successfully? Huang Yueli proactively walked over as she leaned by Li Moying's side and hugged his arm. Li Moying caressed her long black hair and analyzed, "No wonder Leng Yifeng and the others wanted to lure us over, looks like they definitely knew something was up." Sect Master Kui had already mentioned that they had transcribed a portion of the ancient manual, hence discovering the location of the cloudy Chilean mystic region. That ancient manual must have recorded all the matters related to the central region. If I had thought of this earlier, I should have searched Leng Yifeng's realm ring before I jumped down. Perhaps we might find some information from there. Saying all these now are of no use. As Huang Yueli was talking, she suddenly stopped. Li Moying lowered his head as he looked at her curiously. "You can also listen on." He saw Huang Yueli's gaze looking straight ahead to the right side, bearing a dazed look. Li Moying hurriedly nudged her shoulder. "Leah, are you all right?" Huang Yueli then regained her senses and said, "Moying, take a look over there. Is there something over there?" Li Moying followed the direction of her finger, but unfortunately, other than an entire piece of uneven wall, he totally couldn't see anything strange at all. "Is there something?" "There is. Of course there is." Huang Yueli jumped out of his arms as she swiftly walked over. She stretched out her right hand and her slender fingers swiftly moved along 7 to 8 positions on the wall as she continuously pressed down hard on it. Hearing a click sound, a burst of dust flew and a portion of the wall moved backwards to reveal a secret door. Li Moying acted swiftly as he locked his little fiancée's waist and dragged her backwards. Unfortunately, Huang Yueli was still choked by the dust which had fallen down onto her when the wall moved and kept coughing non-stop. Luckily, this secret door wasn't a mechanism armed with attack nature, hence she had not suffered any injuries. Li Moying gave her an angry stare. "Why are you not defensive at all? Just simply opening the door directly? What if there's a mechanism on the door? You'd definitely be hurt and I won't be able to save you in time." Huang Yueli didn't think much of it as she replied, "How is that possible? I'm the armament master here. Whether there's any mechanisms or not, surely I'd know, right?" She was originally speaking with confidence as everything she said had sense, but after being glared at by Li Moying's upset gaze, she started to feel guilty as her voice also toned down. This man's angry look was really a teeny wee bit frightening. But how could he be so fierce towards her? With this thinking in mind, she stared back at him righteously. Li Moying had always been absolutely helpless towards his little fiancé, who always acted pampered and arrogant, so he could only shake his head as he walked forward, towards the secret door. The entrance of the secret door was concealed by an entire patch of bluish-purple light as the electricity flickered to the extent of the surrounding heaven and earth profound chi being affected, making one felt extremely suppressed. Actually, the entire central region was where the thunder-attributed energy was at its strongest. It was denser than the outside world by at least 10 times, and to ordinary practitioners, it was something which would make them feel extremely unbearable. If it wasn't for the fact that Huang Yueli and Li Moying had great innate talents in terms of the thunder attribute, they would probably not be able to last at this place for 2 hours and they would have suffered a serious internal injury. But now right in front of this ray, the intensity of the thunder attribute increased yet again. Even Huang Yueli was starting to feel uncomfortable as she frowned and started to retreat several steps. Li Moying, on the other hand, looked the same as he totally didn't feel anything uncomfortable about this. He stood in front of the ray and asked, "Leah, are you sure this secret door had no mechanism? This patch of ray doesn't look very normal." Huang Yueli looked over from afar and replied, "This basically is a kind of mechanism, but not that type that you're thinking of. It merely filters the practitioners who can enter this place. Apparently, in order to enter this secret room, one must at least be a 9th stage realm thunder attributed practitioner. Other attributes are not able to enter, unless," before she could finish up, she already saw Li Moying's foot stepping into it, without getting hurt at all. Furthermore, he even turned back his head and asked curiously, "Why aren't you continuing?" "Unless what?" Huang Yueli's lips twitched. "Unless for an abnormal god-grade thunder-attributed genius like you. You can also listen on." She continued in exasperation, "All right, as a man, stop being so naggy to keep on asking and asking and asking. Anyway, this mechanism is of no threat to you, so you'd better hurry on in to take a look. See if there's any clues in the secret room that can help us to leave this place." Li Moying looked at her angry face as his lips couldn't help but curled upwards. His Leah definitely wanted to have a look around the secret room, but too bad. Although she had 9th grade thunder attributed innate talent, but she wasn't able to enter, so it was no wonder that she was feeling so gloomy. But even if she put on an angry look, she was still so adorable. "All right, I'll head in first. Be obedient and wait here for me, don't run about," he instructed. Huang Yueli gave a snort. "Isn't that gibberish? Where else can I run off to?" Li Moying smiled as he turned around into the secret room. Huang Yueli was waiting on the outside for quite some time and felt a little bored, hence she got up to add security onto the array, changing the magical beast's cores which were almost depleted of energy. This kind of defensive array which blocked out those magical beasts actually used up quite a huge amount of resources. For them to keep the array on throughout the day and night needed a fresh batch of 7th grade magical beast cores every 4 hours. This was simply burning money, and there were many 9th stage realm practitioners who did not have such capacity, hence they would naturally feel their hearts ache and their entire being ache as well as a huge headache. But Huang Yueli herself was wealthy enough, not to mention that she had a fiancé who was at her beck and call, responsible for getting the magical beast cores, hence there wasn't much reluctance in her at all. After waiting for around 2 hours, Li Moying walked out from the secret room. Huang Yueli immediately went up to him as she interrogated, "You're finally out. What's there in the secret room? Have you found any useful clues?" Li Moying smiled and suddenly raised his hand and hung something around Huang Yueli's neck. "This is for you. Do you like it?" Huang Yueli lowered her head to take a look and her eyes immediately grew wide with joy. Li Moying had given her an impressively carved jade made out of a piece of rainbow spirit crystal. Furthermore, the luster was exceptional, more crystal clear than those 7 pieces which existed in Soaring Heaven's continents. She could also clearly sense the unmatchable powerful energy which was contained inside. She stretched out her hand to touch this rainbow spirit crystal pendant as she simply loved it so much that she couldn't bear to part with it. "It's so pretty. Did you find it in the secret room?" Li Moying nodded. "There are a lot of thunder-attributed profound artifacts and cultivation methods, and also some medicinal pills. But only this. I guess that you'd like it very much. In the past, didn't you always hope to have one?" Huang Yueli's smile was radiant. In her past life, she had always wanted a piece of rainbow spirit crystal, and Mu Chengying had risked his life to get one for her, but she's not expecting him to still remember this in this lifetime. "Unfortunately, I wonder if that piece in my past life had exploded along with my self-explosion. Even if it hadn't, it's probably impossible to find it back now, but this piece is much prettier. Thank you, darling." Saying that, she tipped her toes up and swiftly gave Li Moying a peck on his cheek. Li Moying went into a blank and had an overwhelmed look on his face, apparently not expecting his pampered and arrogant little fiancée to automatically throw herself into his arms. However, before he could even reminisce properly, Huang Yueli had already retreated backwards and at the same time asking, "Other than profound armaments and whatever, there's nothing else?" Li Moying then regained his senses, but he no longer could catch her as he replied helplessly, "This secret room seemed to be a temporary home for some senior from the Cloudy Chilean clan in the ancient times. You can also listen on." As this is that senior's temporary abode, so he hadn't left many things behind. There is a manuscript which recorded some matters related to this valley. As Li Moying spoke, he retrieved a yellowed notebook from his chest pocket as he passed it over to Huang Yueli. Huang Yueli received it and couldn't wait as she started flipping through it. She only took a look and smiled. This is quite the coincidence. The owner of this manuscript seems to be Sage Wu Ding. We had collected a huge fortune in his cave dwelling a couple of days ago, and now we've entered his secret room. It seems that we have an affinity with him. The first half portion of the manuscript recorded some insight which Sage Wu Ding had obtained while in his path of cultivation and some minor daily matters. It was obvious that Sage Wu Ding's cultivation was extremely high, at least 10th stage realm and above. Other than that, his status in the Cloudy Chilean clan was rather high as well, especially in terms of thunder-attributed cultivation method. He had an exceptional exclusive understanding on it, so this to Li Moying was of great value. But Huang Yueli was rather uninterested in this portion. She swiftly glanced through and finally found the contents in the last few pages which she was interested in. Sage Wu Ding had mentioned that in the process of his cultivation, he had met with a bottleneck and for the longest time ever, he wasn't able to break through. Hence, after expending a huge amount of effort, he finally managed to apply for a quota to enter the central region. Therefore he set his mind that if he didn't break through, he would not leave that place. That was why he set up an array formation in a slightly hidden location within the central region. As Huang Yueli watched, she suddenly screamed. So this valley is actually Cloudy Chilean clan's refinement ground. Li Moying looked at her shocked expression as he couldn't help but laughed. Is there a need to be so shocked? Doesn't your sacred phoenix race also have your own refinement grounds? Cloudy Chilean clan is also one of the ancient spiritual clans, so why can't they have one as well? Huang Yueli replied, the difference between the two clans' refinement grounds is too huge of a difference. In the Sacred Phoenix race's inheritance tower, there was a senior like Huang Zixiao around to guide her step by step with detailed instructions. With that, she knew clearly what the reward was after she had passed by each stage, and it was transparently shown. But in the Cloudy Chilean clan's valley, if this was really its refinement grounds, wasn't it a little too ridiculous? Such a large area with danger lurking around, there wasn't even a proper place for the practitioner to rest and recuperate. Furthermore, before they reached this place, they had already been pursued after by a group of magical beasts with their lives on the verge. If one's ability was slightly weaker, he would have died before he even entered the valley, not to mention anything about refinement. Li Moying looked at her shocked look as he laughed. You haven't taken a detailed look at the contents, right? Senior Wu Ding mentioned that the way Cloudy Chilean clan and Sacred Phoenix race nurtures their younger generation are totally different. Sacred Phoenix race are extremely protective towards their younger generation with great potential, and will supply them with a large amount of resources, doing their best to help them raise their ability to ensure that they become the clan's pillar of support in future. But Cloudy Chilean clan is the exact opposite. Cloudy Chilean clan uses the method of rearing parasites. Resources wouldn't be split equally to all geniuses, instead they're required to go fight for it on their own. Death awaits those who fail, whereas the victor will step on the dead corpses to obtain the resources, rising above others. So, in terms of the number of top experts, Sacred Phoenix race stands out, but the real absolute strongest were mostly from Cloudy Chilean clan. You can also listen on. Huang Yueli's eyes grew wide. There's such a thing. A huge clan like Cloudy Chilean clan actually does this. She had once heard that some sects would use the Spartan method of filtering their disciples, but in Soaring Heaven's continent, most sect felt that this method was too cruel and the method itself was similar to demonic ways, hence proper large sects would not do that. However, Cloudy Chilean clan had a respectable status in God realm, yet they actually adopted this method, which was why it made her extremely surprised. Li Moying, however, didn't think much of it. A large clan with an inheritance of several hundred years really isn't that simple to achieve. For Cloudy Chilean clan to have this kind of regulation, there must be a reason for it. Moreover speaking, the art of cultivation originally is a fight against heavens, so there really aren't too many who can reach the peak. Furthermore, even if there is no such regulation, did you really think that the same generation in the clan would not attack each other mutually? This is merely bringing the underground fights to the surface. Huang Yueli immediately thought of Murong Fei and Li Lingchuan and the others who pushed them down her, as she sighed. She couldn't not admit that what Li Moying said was right. In this case, this place really is Cloudy Chilean clan's refinement grounds. But how do you go on with the refinement here? To what extent of accomplishment do we achieve before we can leave this place? Li Moying shook his head and said, Senior Wu Ding's manuscript didn't talk about this in detail. He only mentioned that while in the valley, the higher the grade of the magical beasts killed, the more advantages one would gain, and the more central the location, the higher the grade of the magical beasts. Lastly, entering the deepest core of the central region would result in confirmation of the final refinement results. He paused and continued, that's right. Senior Wu Ding also mentioned that in the ancient times, it wasn't an easy matter to enter the valley for refinement. Only the strongest among the same generation would be able to enter, so our luck isn't that bad for us to be able to enter this place. Huang Yueli smiled. I'd never expected that Li Lingchuan thought that he could harm us, but in the end, he helped us instead. Li Moying swept her a glance and kept his smile away as he replied solemnly, don't be too quick to be happy. The rate of those peerless geniuses who entered this valley and failed are around 80% and above. Cloudy Chilean clan's experience training uses the failure's blood to pave the way. So later when we leave this place, you have to follow me closely and you're not allowed to run off on your own. When Huang Yueli heard that, she immediately protested. What are you saying? Since when have I ran off on my own? Moreover, I'm not a young child and my cultivation isn't that weak, all right? I can take good care of myself. Li Moying responded, if this was the Sacred Phoenix race's turf or even an ordinary inheritance ground, I would be absolutely assured. But this is the Cloudy Chilean clan's refinement grounds, so a little lass from the sacred phoenix race like you had better not cause any trouble for me. What's wrong with us sacred phoenix race? Have I ruffled your feathers? Me. Huang Yueli raised her chin in a pampered yet arrogant look. After a while later, she seemed to have recalled something and questioned, "From what you said, you've finally admitted that you're from the Cloudy Chilean clan?" Li Moying frowned. "Actually, I'm still not entirely sure. But the entrance of the secret room is obviously set up with a restraint. Generally speaking, unless it's been damaged by brute force, or only those practitioners with the same bloodline as Senior would be able to enter. Plus the face that little Chilean acknowledges me as its master, so there's a high possibility that I'm from Cloudy Chilean clan. You can also listen on." The longer Huang Yueli looked at him, the more she suddenly felt upset. Not knowing why, she seemed to have a repulsive feeling towards Cloudy Chilean clan, as there was an ill premonition in her heart. Li Moying didn't notice her unusual condition. He stood up and said, "Since we're clear of the situation, we should start moving." Huang Yueli's lips twitched. "In which way are we clear? We still haven't figured out a way to leave this place." "We indeed don't know, but since we're already here at the refinement grounds, then we can only take part in the refinement. Cloudy Chilean clan has gathered here for so many years and so many disciples in the clan had taken part in the refinement, so there should be a way to leave. As long as the refinement is completed, they should be transmitted out somehow." Li Moying's guess was logical and reasonable, which left her unable to rebuke him. Furthermore, Huang Yueli knew clearly in her heart that Cloudy Chilean clan's refinement was exceptionally important towards Li Moying's lift in his abilities. Even if Li Moying wasn't from the Cloudy Chilean clan, he was an exceptionally talented thunder-attributed practitioner. As long as he was able to pass the Cloudy Chilean clan's refinement, the rewards which he could reap in the end was unimaginable. Even if it wasn't to leave this place, he should not give up on such a heavenly golden opportunity. Danger or whatever was not in Li Moying's boundary of consideration. In his past life, the reason why he was able to become Soaring Heaven's continent's #1 top expert, other than the fact that he had absolute outstanding innate talent, more importantly he had always looked forward, not fearing any challenges and definitely not letting go of any chance at all. Huang Yueli understood him the best, so she didn't bother with any gibberish as she immediately stood up and followed him closely. "Then let's go." She thought for a moment and opened her mouth again. "But, you'd better put these on first." She retrieved some pieces of profound armament from the Sky Phoenix ring and passed it over to Li Moying. These items were obtained in Sage Wu Ding's cave the other day, and at that time, Huang Yueli kept it all with the intention of doing research on it. But as the situation now was slightly more urgent, Li Moying needed to prove his ability to pass the refinement with his best standard, hence she had no choice but to bring it out. Li Moying accepted it from her hands and gave her a grin, "Finally willing to give it to me?" Huang Yueli rolled her eyes at him. Li Moying then smiled and speedily put on the profound armor, then wearing the profound artifact and pulled out the amethyst light sword. Huang Yueli's fingers moved deftly and very quickly. The array to the cave was shut. The minute the array's barrier vanished, the magical beasts which laid in wait outside the cave immediately surged upward. They had already been blocked out of the cave by the array for 3 days and had starved for a long time. They were obviously blocked by an array and could still sense 2 exceptionally delicious people with overflowing profound energy, but they could only watch with their eyes and were not able to devour them. This feeling was especially annoying, and the magical beasts hungered for the 2 of them even more. Hence when the restraint was set free, those magical beasts seemed as though they had gone mad, fighting to be the first as they pounced over towards them. Li Moying's foot stepped hard and he swiftly moved in front to block Huang Yueli. The amethyst light sword swung out several bright rays in mid-sky as though it was a piece of unregulated pattern, but in actual fact, he had already struck out more than 100 strokes within an instant. The foremost few magical beasts were heavily injured and shocked beyond senses as they hastily retreated backward. If it was before, Li Moying would usually not bother to chase after the injured magical beasts. Because there were simply too many magical beasts around and it was necessary for him to continue fighting, so he couldn't waste his profound energy. Anyway, after these magical beasts were injured, their profound energy would dissipate and they would turn into a meal for their common species, being swallowed cleanly. You can also listen on. But now, after he read Sage Wu Ding's manuscript, his heart was suddenly moved upon looking at those escaping magical beasts. The manuscript mentioned that the more magical beasts which were killed in the refinement, the more advantages he would derive. If he wanted to get a good result in the refinement, just forcing them to retreat wasn't enough, he must strike them down one by one. Li Moying's thoughts flashed past swiftly as his footwork allowed him to catch up to them swiftly. These magical beasts escaped really quickly and they headed towards different directions while fleeing. Luckily Li Moying had decisively decided on a direction immediately as he pursued, and as several bolts of lightning flashed past, a 6th grade magical beast died under his sword. With a loud boom, the magical beast's body laid limp on the ground. Li Moying withdrew his sword and was just about to leave when his gaze suddenly grazed past the magical beast's corpse for a moment as he stood stunned. Seeing the magical beast's body suddenly smoking with bursts of bluish-purple current, little small light balls started to float out from its body as it slowly rose upwards into the sky. Those magical beasts which were not too far away all got excited as they ferociously pounced over upon seeing these little light balls. Li Moying was in a daze for a breath's time when he suddenly understood the entire meaning. These light balls were thunder-attributed energy which had been accumulated in that magical beast's body, and following its death, these energies were unable to be contained in its body, so it could only dissipate out, returning back to the valley once again. Meanwhile, these energy itself was extremely pure, even purer than those intentionally gathered heaven and earth profound energy by those ancient practitioners, even denser by 100 or 1,000 times. Seeing the surrounding magical beasts about to pounce towards him, Li Moying's right hand suddenly rose up as he waved gently. Those light balls instantly changed its direction, and like an invisible hand guiding it, it flew towards his side. The other magical beasts seemed as though they had gone crazy as they bared their fangs and pounded ferociously towards Li Moying. Li Moying's expression didn't change at all as he steadily guided those light balls. It merely took a couple of breaths' time when the light balls all fell into his palm. The minute it laid on him, Li Moying felt a stream of warm energy entering his meridians. This energy was not only pure and powerful, it was also extremely compatible with his profound energy. Originally it was a difficult task to combine external energy internally, and it usually required a long time to medicate and refine, but these light balls seemed to merge with his internal profound energy immediately, and the process was extremely fast. So fast that Li Moying had yet to sense it obviously, and the energy from the light balls had already become a part of him. Li Moying's face lit up with a joyous and shocked expression the minute the light ball's energy entered his body. Him who was usually calm and composed suddenly felt perturbed right now. These light balls contained that 6th grade magical beast's profound energy which he had just killed. Besides that, it was maintained rather perfectly, almost equivalent to 50% of the 6th stage magical beast's profound energy while it was still alive. One must know that the magical beast core which they usually killed could only retain less than 30% of the magical beast's profound energy when it was still alive. During absorption, they were usually only able to refine half of it. As compared to that, the light balls in this valley which magical beasts gave out after their deaths contained energy which was simply too powerful, and it could even be absorbed instantly. This simply was akin to free cultivation giveaway. No wonder Cloudy Chilean clan tried ways and means to create such horrifying and sinister refinement grounds. You can also listen on. These magical beasts that Cloudy Chilean clan reared, although they were extremely dangerous as this kind of model, attracted chain attacks which could instantly take away a weak practitioner's life. But to a strong practitioner, these magical beasts were simply offering their profound energy. Though killing them to obtain profound energy, it was a kind of cultivation method which was faster than any other kind of training. Li Moying's spirit jolted as the gaze he casted upon those few magical beasts pouncing towards him changed entirely. The magical beasts were running swiftly in mid-air when they suddenly felt a chill running down their spines. They somehow felt that this human's gaze wasn't quite right. Looking at them as though they were a scrumptious meal. Was there something wrong? Obviously he was their scrumptious meal, all right. Li Moying's profound energy within him was incomparably abundant right now, and the surging profound energy seemed to be seeping out from his meridians. The light balls earlier not only replenished the profound energy which he lost in the battle earlier, In fact, it even reaped additional rewards for him. He grabbed his sword with his backhand and his profound energy within him poured out in torrent. His sword chi warp and weft in weaving, overbearing and assertive. Those magical beasts which pounced up were grazed by his sword chi and were instantly scorched while giving off miserable shrills. Some of them fled for their lives immediately, but some which were injured turned even more savage and ruthless as they howled wildly while pouncing towards Li Moying. Li Moying looked at those injured ones which had escaped and he suddenly felt a sense of regret. He had finally injured some. Alright, it was actually easy to injure them, but those were his profound energy, his cultivation. They just ran and ran and ran off like that. Although he thought in that way, but he was rather steady in differentiating the consequences. The few magical beasts in front were evidently the strongest among those which had pounced over earlier. Li Moying's amethyst light sword kept waving as it absorbed the surrounding heaven and earth profound chi, all gathering towards him. It seemed as though with every strike of his sword, a magical beast would fall beneath his feet. Whereas for the light balls from those deceased magical beasts, it was all absorbed into his body. His profound energy was hence replenished and the aura around him grew stronger and stronger, as the speed of his moves became faster and faster. Very soon, another magical beast became a dead soul under his sword and the light balls. Li Moying totally didn't restrain himself any further as he intentionally unleashed the profound energy within him recklessly without any scruples. This was because his motive had already changed from evading the magical beast's attacks to attracting the magical beast's attack. He wished that more magical beasts would gather around him. The flow moved in circles and Li Moying felt his own cultivation rising in an evident speed. With this speed of killing, he didn't need to wait till the sky turned dark and he would be able to advance. But this little region of magical beasts was rather limited and a large portion of magical beasts had already lost interest when Huang Yueli and Li Moying first hid into the array, departing long ago. So after an hour plus or more later, Li Moying's feet laid many high-leveled magical beasts' corpses and the surrounding magical beasts, other than those few which had escaped earlier, the rest of them had all been killed by him cleanly. Huang Yueli had also left the array long ago and her mouth had turned into an O shape with an extremely dazed expression on her face. Was there something wrong with this? Although her own fiancé was indeed powerful, but these were all 6th and 7th grade magical beast. To ordinary 7th stage realm practitioners, just meeting with one was already very tough to deal with. Li Moying actually killed a large heap of them in such a short amount of time. Moreover, it felt much simpler than killing chickens. You can also listen on. Li Moying saw her walking over and waved to her. Leah, come try and absorb these light balls' energy too. His speed of taking down those last few magical beasts was extremely fast and there were some light balls which he had yet to absorb as it was still floating in midair. Huang Yueli walked over and asked, "These light balls are formed out of profound energy gathered within those magical beasts?" Li Moying nodded, "Should be. I finally understand why Sage Wu Ding's manuscript recorded that the more magical beasts are killed, the greater the rewards reaper. This valley is basically the farm for those magical beasts which Cloudy Chilean clan reared and their motive is to provide profound energy for the clan's geniuses to absorb." Huang Yueli stretched out her hand and absorbed a light ball which was floating. When the light ball touched her palm, it quickly melded into her body. But a few moments later, she frowned. Thunder attributed profound energy, doesn't seem too compatible with me. Her innate talent was fire attributed and she could be considered as a heaven-grade talent in that aspect, but her thunder attributed innate talent was merely at 9th grade. 9th grade innate talent in the entire Soaring Heavens continent was considered as a peerless genius, which was a rare talent, but as compared to the geniuses in the ancient god clan's geniuses, it was rather unremarkable. So when she was absorbing the profound energy, there was an evident difference between her and Li Moying. Her absorption speed and effect were much weaker as compared to Li Moying. Li Moying smiled and said, "Dual attribute thunder and fire's profound skills damage power is much higher. Usually you don't have the time to cultivate thunder-attributed cultivation methods, so why not take this chance to absorb a little, half the work and twice the effect?" Huang Yueli nodded. She originally wasn't very interested in Cloudy Chilean clan's refinement. After all, she was a god-grade genius of the sacred Phoenix clan, and if she was able to get to the final inheritance in the Cloudy Chilean clan, that would be like meeting a living ghost. Just how blind were Cloudy Chilean clan's seniors whereby they weren't able to judge her clan's bloodline? If she went up to try out the refinement process, the advantages which she got would be limited and perhaps her identity might even be exposed. But looking at those light balls filled with energy lying on the ground, she was tempted by it. Especially now that she had an exceedingly unsurpassed top exponent Li Moying right beside her. Killing magical beasts was such an easy feat, so absorbing profound energy to her was just as simple as lifting a finger. Having thought of this, her face revealed a sweet smile. You're working so hard to kill the magical beasts, and if I were to absorb the energy away, it's not very nice of me to do that. Li Moying couldn't help but laughed as he pinched her face. Are you really feeling sorry or just pretending to be so? It's originally my duty to take care of my wife, so sharing some profound energy with you is just a small matter. Huang Yueli's lips lifted in satisfaction as she ran off to absorb the rest of the light balls. Finding out about the regulations of the valley's refinement, the two of them need not continue hiding in the cave. They roamed around the valley hand in hand, and the minute they saw thunder-attributed magical beasts, they immediately went up to kill it while absorbing the energy in the light balls. In order to allow Huang Yueli to obtain a little more profound energy, Li Moying practically beat up the magical beasts till they were on their last breath and dragging it all the way till Huang Yueli reached and allowed her to give them the last blow. During the actual combat, they discovered that the practitioner who last killed the magical beasts would yield a higher rate of absorbing the light balls. However, even so, the speed of Huang Yueli's cultivation advancement couldn't be compared to Li Moying's. When Li Moying first entered the valley, his cultivation was merely at 7th stage realm 5th level, but it had only been 7 days since they came and he had already broken through 3 small realms continuously, arriving at 7th stage realm 8th level. You can also listen on. Li Moying was just 21 years old this year and he had already reached 7th stage realm 8th level. If this matter was spread out, it was absolutely an achievement which had never been fulfilled since the dawn of time. Ever since 10,000 years ago, when the change in soaring heaven's continent occurred, causing the thinning of heaven and earth's profound chi, no one had been able to achieve such cultivation speed. He had already far surpassed all the geniuses in the past 10,000 years. Huang Yueli's advancement speed couldn't catch up to his, but she had reaped great benefits as well. When she first entered this place, she was only at 5th stage realm 1st level. She had barely broken through to the 5th stage realm in just under 1 month ago. Whereas now, her cultivation had already broken through to 5th stage realm 4th level. Of course, although the two of them had been promoted by 3 small realms, but as Li Moying's cultivation was much higher, the difficulty of promotion for him was 10 times or more than for Huang Yueli. But Huang Yueli had not felt disappointed because of this. This valley originally was the Cloudy Chilean sect's refinement grounds, and as a member of the opposing energy of Cloudy Chilean sect, being able to gain all the advantages here was already a stolen fact. A young sacred phoenix race's lass actually followed their own clan's genius into the top-rated refinement grounds which only Cloudy Chilean clan's peerless geniuses could enter based on their mixed profound energy. Furthermore, she only needed to stay behind her man, didn't need to use much energy, and profound energy would automatically be sent to her. If the seniors of the Cloudy Chilean clan found out about this, they would probably explode from fury immediately. However, she was having such a good life now because someone had let her find such a great fiancé like Li Moying. Furthermore, there weren't only magical beasts in the valley. There were plenty of secret rooms in this place, like the ones which Sage Wuding left behind. All these were all historical remains left behind by those Cloudy Chilean sect's top exponents when they went into closed-door cultivation. In those rooms were profound armaments, medicinal pills, and manuscripts which were left behind by those top exponents. As time went by, those items were no longer owned by anyone. The mechanisms and restraint outside the historical remains wasn't an obstacle to Huang Yueli. Hence, while they were killing magical beasts to cultivate, they also entered plenty of other secret rooms and caves, retrieving all those treasures. These things were all kept away by Huang Yueli. Unknowingly, the two of them had stayed for several days in the valley, and the designated date to leave the Cloudy Chilean mystic region had reached, but they were still unable to find a way to leave this place. However, the both of them weren't overly anxious because the cultivation speed in the valley was just too fast. Huang Yueli and Li Moying were both knowledgeable people, and they naturally knew that as long as they had enough ability, there would be a way to leave the mystic region. But chances like this to raise their cultivations quickly were rare. It was evident which was more important. But although they weren't too mindful of this, their disappearance had already caused a huge commotion between the two sects. Outside the cloudy Qilin mystic region, Murongde and Kui Yuanshan both led their elders and stood in place according to the array's position, preparing to reactivate the mystic region once again in order for those disciples who went in for training to leave. Before the activation of the mystic region, everyone present was in anticipation and nervous. Entering the ancient mystic region was indeed a heavenly opportunity, but chance and crisis often coexisted, and every time they entered a mystic region, there would be a number of talented disciples who would meet with their demise within. If the demised talents were too many or too powerful, then to the sect it would not be an opportunity but rather a huge loss incurred. Murongde turned his head back to take a look at Kui Yuanshan only to discover that his expression was steely green, apparently much more anxious than himself. You can also listen on. This time entering the mystic region, the risks of Green Cloud sect was much higher than Celestial Light sect. Because the number of quota which Green Cloud had gained was a total of 30% of the total number of people, so if anything were to happen, their mutual support possibility was very minute, and of course they would be at a disadvantage as compared to the side with more people. Moreover, this time round, Celestial Light sect's leader was Li Moying, a number 1 genius in South Sky region. Not only did he have exceeding innate talent, he also had abundant experience in terms of experience training. So with him leading the team and with a high-leveled armament master like Huang Yueli to aid him, Celestial Light sect basically had no worries in terms of safety. If there were any truly great chances, Green Cloud sect would not be able to win him at all. Thinking of this, Murongde's heart couldn't help but feel complacent. Just at this moment, intense shaking could be felt from the ground. The auspicious time was up and all the elders injected their profound energy, reactivating the entrance of the cloudy chilling mystic region. Very soon, one after another disciple started to walk out of the entrance. Kui Yuanshan hurried up to welcome them and started to do a tally on the number of people while inquiring on their rewards in the mystic region. Murongde, on the other hand, was very unhurried because with Li Moying around, he was extremely at ease. But not too long later, he realized that things were not right. Those Celestial Light sect disciples who walked out of the mystic region were all looking pale, as though they had suffered a huge setback without any sliver of joy from gaining opportunities within the mystic region. The entrance was only activated for 2 hours, and as time went by, 2 hours was going to be up, but none of the top talents which Murongde was most concerned about had appeared at all. He originally thought that Li Moying and the rest were all at the back, but there was no one else who walked out from the entrance, and there was no sight of them as well. Murongde's expression finally changed, and he called a direct disciple dressed in blue as he asked anxiously, "What's going on? Why is young sect master, young miss, and the rest still not out yet?" The blue-robed disciple trembled and lowered his head, his voice started to shake. Reporting to sect master, young sect master, he didn't manage to come to the gathering point. He seems to have gone missing in the mystic region. Murongde originally had some wild guesses in his mind, but he somehow felt that he must have guessed wrongly. Li Moying had always been rather reliable and never made any mistakes at a crucial point of time, so how could he possibly fall in a mere mystic region? But from the looks of it now, there was a greater shock waiting for him as that blue-robed disciple paused for a moment and clenched his teeth, then braced himself to continue. Not only young sect master, young miss, junior sister Bai, senior brother Li, they have all disappeared. Senior brother Luo originally came to the gathering point, but he left when the mystic region reactivated just to go search for young sect master. When Murongde heard that, his eyes rolled over and instantly fainted. An elder who was standing behind him reacted quickly to catch hold of him and fed him with a medicinal pill, thus allowing him to regain consciousness. Although he was conscious, but Murongde was still shaking totally in fear and shock, not daring to believe what he heard was true. "You, explain to me clearly. The few of them are all top-rated talents, so how is it possible that they all went missing?" Hearing those interrogative questions, The blue-robed disciple immediately started to sweat. He had heard Luo Jiun and Fang Xiaoning's words earlier and knew that Li Lingchuan had conspired with the others to scheme Li Moying, and were killed instead. You can also listen on. But he wasn't sure if Murongde would believe in these kinds of words because it implicated his biological daughter Murong Fei. Moreover, Green Cloud Sect's disciples were around as well, and this matter concerned Green Cloud Sect's eldest disciple Lung Yifeng. The blue-robed disciple was only an ordinary direct disciple, and if this matter turns into a huge commotion, he was worried that he would be the one who had to take on the anger from them. But he hesitated for a moment and decided to tell the truth. Just as he was about to open his mouth, a bustle of commotion was suddenly heard coming from the crowd. Look quickly. There's some movements from the entrance, someone's coming out again. This is just too timely. Merely another 10 over breaths and the entrance will be shut, so this is the last opportunity to leave. I wonder who has such good luck. Could it be young sect master? It must be him. I don't believe that with young sect master's kind of ability, he would really fall to his demise like that. Everyone turned their heads towards the entrance of the mystic region, and Murongde and Kui Yuan Shan agitatedly walked towards the front of the mystic region. At the entrance were two ashen-faced figures, almost as though they crawled and rolled out from there. Their clothes on them were tattered and stuck with mud and dust, and furthermore they had serious injuries inflicted upon them. Some wounds were so deep which the bones could be seen, and there were some where their skins were evidently scorched, cutting an extremely disheveled state. But no matter what, they were two live beings. Everyone leaned close and cried out in joy. It's senior sister Murong and senior brother Li. They're actually not dead and have managed to come out successfully at the last minute. No matter what, at least they're still alive. Just as Murong Fei and Li Lingchuan got out, the entrance to the mystic region started to close up slowly. Quickly look. The entrance to the mystic region is going to disappear. That's it. This time it's really the end. Young sect master, he really didn't come out. And that Lung Yifeng from Green Cloud Sect. Are they really? Amidst the crowd who were in shock, the ones with the ugliest expressions on them were the two sect masters Murongde and Kui Yuan Shan. They were the most outstanding eldest disciples under their wings, and they had not come out from the mystic region, whereas now, the mystic region's entrance was going to close up. This meant that they were not able to come out anymore. So even if they had not died, they were destined to die inside the mystic region. They urged the elders at the same time, try to hang on for a moment more, to let the entrance shut a little later. But the elders' profound energy were extremely limited, and no matter how hard they tried to drag on the time, but the entrance still shut eventually. This meant that the mystic region experience training this time had really completely ended. Li Moying and Lung Yifeng really didn't manage to come out of there. Murongde's feet turned into jelly and almost fainted once again. Celestial Light Sect's losses are simply too severe. A peerless genius like Li Moying in South Sky region died just like that. He was the greatest hope who could possibly bring Celestial Light Sect to the peak. Murongde placed all his hopes onto him. In the end, he actually had such an ending. This kind of peerless genius, shouldn't he have extra luck on him, and no matter what difficulties he met, he would be able to turn ill luck into good luck? How could he have died so easily? You can also listen on. Furthermore, Celestial Light Sect's losses weren't just this. Li Moying's fiancée by Ruoli also didn't manage to come out. Although this young lass wasn't nurtured by Celestial Light Sect, but she was an accidental reward. But such a talented armament master with such good cultivation, innate talent, was so rare that even Li Moying couldn't hope to be compared with her. Murongde was feeling delighted secretly for taking in such a peerless genius because of Li Moying. But he had not expected that this treasure had just fallen into their hands for only a few days, and even before it warmed up, it also disappeared together with him. And Luo Jiun as well, although he wasn't a peerless talent as compared to Li Moying and Huang Yueli, but he was still an 8th grade talent and was one of those outstanding disciples whom he could entrust his hopes onto. There were only 3 or 4 8th grade talented disciples in Celestial Light Sect, and to have one fallen right here made Murongde feel an extreme heartache. But the lucky thing among the misfortune was that Murong Fei and Li Lingchuan were still alive. Murongde looked at the both of them and hurriedly summoned the sect's doctors over to render first aid upon seeing their serious injuries. Quick, divine doctors, please take a look at Feiya and Master Li. Their injuries are not light, so we cannot afford to delay any treatment. Sect Master, please be assured. Eldest young Miss and Master Li's injuries may be serious, but they have not reached a life and death situation, and as long as they spend more time resting, they should have hopes to recuperate. Murongde heaved a sigh of relief as he knew that both of them should be all right, but recalling about Li Moying and the rest who had completely disappeared, he couldn't help but feel bouts of heartache. Murongde turned towards that blue-robed disciple as he continued on the topic, which was interrupted. You come back here. Earlier, this sect master has yet to finish my interrogation. What on earth happened to young sect master and the rest? Tell me everything you know. Blue-robed disciple cried out in pain silently as he was thinking that he had finally managed to evade a crisis earlier, but why was it that Murongde had to remember about him now? But now that things were in such bad state, Li Lingchuan and Murong Fei were just by the side, so how was he supposed to reply? About this. Actually, young sect master, he, blue-robed disciple hemmed and hawed. Just at this moment, a weak voice was heard butting in from the side. Mars. Master, eldest senior brother. When something happened to him, Feiya and I were right there. Li Lingchuan opened his mouth and Murongde immediately walked up to him agitatedly while questioning in detail. What? You witnessed it. What on earth happened to your eldest senior brother? Could he really had a mishap? Cannot be. With that kind of innate talent and his cool and composed manner, surely it wouldn't turn out in that manner, right? He stared at Li Lingchuan and hoped to see him nod his head. However, Li Lingchuan sighed and said softly, Master, this time eldest senior brother, really. I had not expected this to happen, but, Murongde saw black. He stumbled and clutched his chest as he took deep breaths and stabilized his emotion. Not right. How could this be possible? You really witnessed it with your own eyes. Li Lingchuan nodded. Master, please restrain your grief and accept fate. Murongde was still unwilling to accept the truth but continued chiseling at it. You, tell me clearly in detail, what exactly happened to your eldest senior brother? What situation was that even he couldn't handle it at all? He still has Bai Ruoli next to him. When Li Lingchuan heard his questions, he frowned slightly as his gaze floated towards Kui Yuan Shan while bearing an expression which seemed as though he wanted to say something but was hesitant about it. You can also listen on. Murongde was feeling extremely flustered as he asked, What on earth do you mean? Tell me quickly. But, Master, it's best that we discuss this in private. This occasion is not suitable. While Li Lingchuan was saying that, he intentionally casted a look at Kui Yuan Shan. This time round, Murongde finally understood that he had a hidden meaning in his words as he frowned. What do you mean by that? What can't you say out openly? Don't tell me that Moying's death has something to do with Green Cloud Sect. This, Li Lingchuan gave a shocked look as though his thoughts had been poked with a hole. Murongde's expression sunk. So it's really like that? I was just saying. Moying's ability is so excellent, how was it possible that he would meet with his demise here? Looks like it's really the Green Cloud Sect who had been playing tricks. Kui Yuan Shan heard that and took quick steps over with a stern look in his eyes, starting fiercely at Li Lingchuan. Little fellow, how dare you sprout nonsense and malign us Green Cloud Sect? Obviously there are more Celestial Light Sect people, so how would our sect have the ability to harm you guys? Make things clearly on what exactly happened. This sect master also suspects that Yi Feng's death is related to Li Moying. Kui Yuan Shan's mood was originally very bad and Green Cloud Sect's losses were quite big as well. Lung Yi Feng wasn't able to leave the cloudy Chelin mystic region alive. He wasn't just Green Cloud Sect's eldest disciple, that simple. His backing was from Sky Emperor City's Lung family. Although Lung Yifeng had met with a mishap during the experience training, but to a super powerhouse like Lung family, they need not talk reason with him, and if they insisted on venting their anger on Green Cloud Sect, Kui Yuan Shan just simply could not take on this responsibility. Kui Yuan Shan was already feeling heartache and was on the verge of eruption. He had not expected that Li Lingchuan would cast a pot of dirty water over. Whatever he tried to say meant to hint that Green Cloud Sect's people had caused Li Moying's death. This made him explode completely. Although Li Lingchuan was prepared, but under the suppression of a well-established ninth-stage realm top expert, his sweat started to sprout, and taking on the opponent's impact, Li Lingchuan's internal injury, which had just gotten slightly better, worsened again as he couldn't help but spat out mouthfuls of blood. Murongde hurriedly stood in between the two of them. "Enough, Brother Kui, let's talk things out properly. Bullying a junior like that, what ability is that considered to be?" Kui Yuanshan laughed coldly. "I want to hear what rubbish he has prepared to cook up." Li Lingchuan coughed several times and his voice became even weaker. Master, Sect Master Kui, you too, stop arguing, please listen to what I have to say. 10 days ago in the cloudy Chalene Mystic region, third junior sister and I partnered together to go on experience learning, and when we heard fighting sounds from the mountain nearby, we headed up to check it out. In the end we saw eldest senior brother and Mr. Lung arguing and were about to fight it out. What? They really started to fight? Murongde frowned. Li Lingchuan nodded. That's right, I went up with third junior sister to mediate in their quarrel. Then we discovered that the both of them were on loggerheads over who a spot of treasure belongs to. Eldest senior brother and Mr. Leng both stuck to their own version of the story, and I was thinking, since our two sects are usually on good terms, naturally it would be best if we can place harmony as the priority, so I suggested splitting the treasure equally. Whoever knew that both of them didn't agree, and upon disagreement, they started to fight. Third junior sister and I originally wanted to mediate, but whoever knew we were both affected by their profound energies, and out of carelessness, both of us sustained serious injuries. Murongde cried out in surprise. What? Your injury is also caused by Leng Yifeng? You can also listen on. When Kui Yuanshan heard that, he gave a sneer. Brother Murong, are you deaf? Didn't you hear this little fellow say that he was injured by the impact? Perhaps it was Li Moying who hurt his own junior brother, so how could you blame it on Yifeng? Simply shameless. Murongde answered back sarcastically. How would Moying possibly deal such a hand on his own junior brother? I think this is obviously your Green Cloud sect's trap. The two sect masters originally were on loggerheads, and now that the both of them were fuming, they felt terrible on thinking back about the losses that their sects suffered. Now they just felt that each other was unpleasant to the eye and immediately started quarreling. An invisible cold smile flashed past on Li Lingchuan's lips. But he quickly concealed his smile as he opened his mouth weakly. Master, Sect Master Kui, stop quarreling. This is really an accidental injury, absolutely not something that eldest senior brother or Mr. Li did on purpose. At that time, the both of them were fighting till they lost their senses, so it was impossible to consider other people when they fought, which was why third junior sister and I were hurt by the scattered profound energy. To tell the truth, I'd never imagined that eldest senior brother and Mr. Lung's ability had exceeded us among the same generation by so much. Kui Yuanshan still didn't quite believe his words. To be honest, in the depths of his heart, he didn't quite believe that Leng Yifeng could engaged in a battle with Li Moying for such a long time, but if he were to cast such suspicious words out, it would cause damage to Green Cloud Sect's reputation, hence he refrained himself from speaking out these words. Li Lingchuan said this and immediately added on, at that time, Mr. Lung held out a piece of profound armament and its might was extremely powerful. Eldest senior brother was injured because of it. Moreover, when the two of them crossed hands, we're not the only two who suffered from it. Even Miss Bai was also injured from that. Kui Yuanshan suddenly recalled that Leng Yifeng had a profound artifact which the Lung family had given him as a last resort to preserve his life. This fact was known by very few people, and since Li Lingchuan could say this out, could it be that what he said was true? He frowned and stared intently at Li Lingchuan. What was the result? After my disciple and Li Lingchuan fought, what was the result? Li Lingchuan continued, the matter happened like this. Although the two of them started to argue initially, but it wasn't considered as a life-threatening fight. But as the profound energy emitted during the battle was too strong and Miss Bai was impacted by it. Not only was she injured, she was also sent flying off, down the cliff. Eldest senior brother pampered Miss Bai so much, this is something which everyone could see with their own eyes. His expression immediately changed, and after killing Mr. Leng, he jumped down the cliff along with Miss Bai. Later junior brother Luo heard about that and wanted to climb down the cliff to save them, but in the end he was surrounded by magical beasts and also got into an accident. What? It's actually really him who did it. Both sect masters cried out at the same time in shock. But very quickly, Kui Yuan Shan laughed coldly. Good, very good, extremely good. There is enough evidence that my disciple Yi Feng was indeed killed by Li Moying. This fellow is just too audacious. He dares to even kill the Lung family's direct descendant. Simply looking for death. He was so angry that he couldn't restrain himself, and with a wave of his right hand, a burst of profound energy shot out afar and directly turned a large part of the forest on the front right into a patch of ruins. Murongda's expression was as silent as water. Sect Master Kui, what so you mean by this? It's common for disciples in the mystic region to engage in battles. Moreover, even though your disciple had met with a mishap, Moying had also jumped down the cliff and died because of that. If we are going to talk about losses, your Green Cloud sect had merely lost a Lung Yi Feng. But we Celestial Light sect had lost 3 8th grade and above talented super geniuses. You can also listen on. Kui Yuan Shan stared at him coldly as the rage in his heart was boiling. Li Moying looked for death himself, but my disciple was beaten to death by him. Murongdas was also feeling annoyed as he blamed Li Lingchuan slightly. How could he say such things out openly? Since he was the only witness, he should just push the entire blame to Lung Yi Feng instead. Why did he need to be so honest for? However, now is not the time to berate him. Murongda laughed coldly. There's no point in deciding who is in the right or wrong now. Moying is now demised in the cloudy Chilean mystic region, and even if you want to settle the debt with him, you can't find him now. Kui Yuan Shan had been keeping it in his heart, as he couldn't wait to go on a killing spree. But as what Murongda said, Li Moying was already dead. Even if he looked for people to seek revenge, he wasn't able to find the person to exact revenge on. Of course, he could also seek Celestial Light sect for revenge. But Celestial Light sect's total ability, although couldn't be matched up to Green Cloud sect, but the disparity between the two weren't considered very huge. If it really boiled down to a life and death gamble, it wasn't certain who might be the eventual winner. Even if Green Cloud sect could win, it would definitely shake the entire sect's foundation, ending up in a lose-lose situation, and they would not stand to gain anything at all. Although Li Moying is already dead, this sect master will not involve the innocent, but if the Lung family received the demised news of their talent in the family, whether they are as reasonable as this sect master will be a question. You're on your own. Kui Yuan Shan stifled for a long time as he balanced out the pros and cons and eventually decided to swallow this anger. Anyway, when the Lung family found out about this matter, they would definitely seek revenge, so Celestial Light sect wouldn't have that many good days ahead of them. Kui Yuan Shan finished what he had to say and brought his men away as he flicked his sleeves furiously. Li Lingchuan saw Green Cloud sect's people getting away further as his lips couldn't help but surfaced a smile. That day, he almost died after being severely injured by Li Moying. Luckily he had with him an 8th grade medicinal pill 9 lives reversal pill which he had gotten during an experience learning trip. This pill's effect was extremely powerful. As long as the injuries weren't shattered meridians or primordial spirit being split, it would forcibly allow the practitioner to recuperate by a large margin. He originally couldn't bear to take this sort of great stuff, preparing to sell it off at an auction in Sky Emperor City for a huge fortune so that he could exchange for his cultivation resources. But since things had come to such a pass with death standing at his doorstep, he could only clench his teeth to swallow it down. Nothing was more important than preserving his life. Right after Li Moying jumped down the cliff to follow Huang Yueli, after a long while later, Li Lingchuan finally regained 10% of his profound energy as he climbed up from the ground. By this time, Luo Jiun had already regained consciousness and had disappeared. Li Lingchuan first went over to check on Murong Fei's injuries. After she was struck flying off by Li Moying's attack, she fainted and Li Moying was only concerned about saving Huang Yueli, so he didn't bother to check on her. Hence the injuries on her wasn't too serious, but as she had been hurt by thunder attributed profound energy, a long scar was left on her face, not knowing if it could be cured in future. Following that, he headed over to check on Lung Yifeng's condition. In comparison, Leng Yifeng's injury was the most serious of them all. As Li Moying was extremely angered at that time, hence he had vented all his anger onto him. If it hadn't been for Murong Fei's sudden appearance who pushed Huang Yueli down the cliff, he would probably have been killed by Li Moying then. Now he was hanging on his last breath and it looked like even if he didn't die, his cultivation would have suffered a huge drop. Li Lingchuan bent over and called out, "Master Leng, Master Leng? Can you hear me talking?" Leng Yifeng's brows creased slightly as he slowly opened his eyes. "You can also listen on." The moment he opened his eyes, Leng Yifeng recalled how Li Lingchuan betrayed him and a sliver of hatred flashed past his eyes. But he quickly recalled his current predicament and concealed his own emotions as he spoke brokenly. "Li Moying, he left." Li Lingchuan replied in a hushed voice, "Li Moying has already fallen down the cliff, and it's all thanks to my third junior sister. Our initial motive has finally been fulfilled." Leng Yifeng finally gave a smile. Although their boats almost flipped in a narrow alley and all of them almost died in Li Moying's hands, but they had not expected that in the end, they actually reverted back to the same route and Li Moying actually really fell down, even though he was heavily injured, but as long as he could get Li Moying killed, it was considered a success. That's great. Master Li, I have a medicinal bottle in my pocket, help me. Take it out." Leng Yifeng actually brought along his medicinal pills, but a pity that he was injured so badly that he couldn't even move a finger. So even if he had medicinal pills, he had no way to eat it, so he could only plead with Li Lingchuan for help. However, Li Lingchuan didn't head over to help him. Leng Yifeng waited for a moment and when he didn't get a response, he frowned and urged, "Li. Master Li. Why are you?" Li Lingchuan suddenly laughed and suppressed his voice, as he spoke in an extremely gentle voice, "Master Leng, I forgot to tell you earlier that it wasn't only Li Moying who fell down the cliff. Earlier, it was Bai Ruoli who fell down first, hence Li Moying jumped down after her. So your sweetheart had also become a dead person. What?" Leng Yifeng was stuck deeply as his eyes opened wide in disbelief. He came over just for Li Huangyueli, and if she died just like that, then why did he brave through fire and water, even going up against Li Moying, causing himself to be seriously injured for? Just as he was in a state of extreme astonishment, Li Lingchuan started to speak again. "So your plan had failed completely. So even if you lived, you're not able to get that young lass. It's really such a pity. Since that's the case, just treat that your plan has failed completely. Originally, you almost died under Li Moying's sword, wasn't it? Then why don't you just treat yourself as really dead then?" Leng Yifeng's heart started throbbing violently, as a bitter coldness arose from his spine. You. He instantly understood what Li Lingchuan was trying to do. However, it was all too late. The dagger in Li Lingchuan's hands dropped out and in a moment, it already landed on his heart. Although Leng Yifeng's ability was very strong, but right now, his protective profound qi had been dispersed by Li Moying entirely and his meridians were completely shattered, totally with no resistance power of any kind. He struggled a few times, but that didn't change anything at all. Soon the whites of his eyeballs rolled over and he completely became a dead corpse. Li Lingchuan then kept his dagger and wiped off all the blood traces as a smile of ridicule appeared on his lips. When Leng Yifeng opened his eyes, that vengeful sight was noticed by him earlier. His running away at the very last minute and betrayal of Leng Yifeng was evident that the two of them could no longer be friends. Moreover, Leng Yifeng cooperated with him today because of Li Moying's fiancée. Now that the young lass was dead, Leng Yifeng gained nothing at all and suffered such huge losses. There was a possibility that he would fly into a rage out of humiliation and betray himself to exact revenge. Li Lingchuan knew this deep in his heart, and when he saw Leng Yifeng on his last breath, evil intent immediately arose in his heart. You can also listen on. Now he only needed to wave his dagger lightly and he would be able to end Leng Yifeng's life. Moreover, no one would ever find out that he was killed by him, Li Lingchuan. Even Murong Fei was currently unconscious. When Murong Fei had hurried over, she witnessed Li Moying and Leng Yifeng's fight, hence she definitely would not doubt the truth over Leng Yifeng's death. Killing Lung Yifeng now was an easy feat with no repercussions, hence he didn't need to worry about his own self betraying himself. Furthermore, the scapegoat to take on this murder could be pushed perfectly onto Li Moying. Adding on, a disciple like Lung Yifeng who came from a large family would probably have a lot of valuable treasures in his realm ring. As soon as he died, he would be able to lay his hands onto these. This was a huge fortune which Li Lingchuan could never hope to get in his entire life. The thoughts in Li Lingchuan's mind flashed past quickly, and just within a few seconds, he already decided to kill him. What's more, he quickly carried out the ideas which he had in mind. After Lung Yifeng died, Li Lingchuan searched his body and his realm ring for all his treasures, before he woke Murong Fei up. Murong Fei caused Li Moying to jump down the cliff and had been death with a huge blow as the setback led to a total collapse, totally unable to think properly as per normal. After being terrorized by Li Lingchuan for some time, she got worried that Murong De would pin Li Moying's death onto her, hence she immediately agreed to perjury for Li Lingchuan. The two of them spent 10 days in seclusion to recuperate and finally managed to recover around 20 to 30% of their profound energy and directly raced towards the gathering point. They had actually arrived very early, but they were afraid of Luo Jiyun noticing them, hence they kept hiding in the darkness. The minute the entrance of the mystic region was about to close, they finally appeared from a dark corner and left the mystic region. Originally, Li Lingchuan had prepared plenty of excuses, prepared to debate with Luo Jiyun. In the end, Luo Jiyun decided to stay in the mystic region to search for Li Moying and was simply a help from heaven for them. This made Li Lingchuan extremely ecstatic. Although the other Celestial Light Sect disciples had heard Luo Jiyun spoke out the truth, that was only on Luo Jiyun's part. No one else were the main parties involved, so they couldn't guarantee that what Luo Jiyun said was the truth and Li Lingchuan's was false. Moreover speaking, even if Luo Jiyun's version was the truth, so what about it? Li Moying was already dead and Li Lingchuan's ability in the entire Celestial Light Sect was second to none, far surpassing the other same generation disciples, so the position of future young sect master would naturally belong to him. If the other disciples wanted to continue mingling around, who would dare to offend Li Lingchuan who wielded power over a dead man? Murong De had totally not expected Li Lingchuan to be the mastermind who came out with so many schemes. After he questioned Murong Fei, he believed what Li Lingchuan said. How could you tell the entire matter out in such a matter? Haven't you taken a good look at Sect Master Kui's expression? I'm afraid that from now onwards, the Green Cloud Sect and us will totally become enemies. Li Lingchuan said, but the truth is that, moreover speaking, Sect Master Kui apparently wanted to find out what was going on, so it wasn't that easy to botch the facts. Anyway, eldest senior brother is all ready. Green Cloud Sect would be unable to find someone to seek revenge on, right? Sigh, Green Cloud Sect would not come bother us, but Lung family might not necessarily be so. Lung family's power was on a different level from Celestial Light Sect. They could extinguish Celestial Light Sect with a mere gesture of waving their hand, so naturally they wouldn't have those kinds of worries which Green Cloud Sect had. Murong De's face was filled with sorrow as he felt extremely melancholic. Li Moying really died like that. He even left such a huge trouble for Celestial Light Sect. You can also listen on. But now that things have already happened, there's no point in getting frustrated over it. The only thing worth getting happy over was that Li Lingchuan and Murong Fei had managed to return alive. Both of them were 8th grade talents, and if it wasn't for Li Moying, their fame would definitely have spread throughout the entire South Sky region. Thinking of this, Murong De's heart got slightly at ease as his gaze towards Li Lingchuan became extremely amiable. Right, Celestial Light Sect wasn't totally finished. Lingchuan, your master is feeling frustrated, so I'll be heading back to the sect first. I'll leave the aftermath here for you to handle. Murong De gave a long sigh, and after he gave out his instructions, he led the few elders and left the scene. When Li Lingchuan heard that, he shook violently as an indescribable joy arose in his heart. He was so happy that he had even forgotten about the injuries on him. He had waited just too long for these words from Murong De. Letting him represent the sect master to administer matters, wasn't it the foreboding signs of promoting him to become the new young sect master? Li Moying, Indeed died a good death. After he died, everything now belonged to him. Li Lingchuan. Cloudy Chilean mystic region. Huang Yueli and Li Moying had unknowingly stayed for 10 over days in the central region. Their cultivations had risen significantly in such a short span of time, and Huang Yueli was already at 5th stage realm 5th level, whereas Li Moying had reached 7th stage realm 9th level. He was just one step away from the 8th stage realm. But Li Moying's profound energy kept on increasing right until he reached 7th stage realm peak and then suddenly stopped right there. In order to aid Li Moying breakthrough, the two of them increased their speed of massacring the magical beasts, and they practically spent all their time searching for magical beasts daily. As long as they met with one, they would kill it and absolutely not let it slip away. But not knowing why, no matter how many magical beasts they killed, Li Moying's cultivation just wouldn't increase. 8th stage realm's doorstep was right in front of him, but no matter how he tried, he wasn't able to step over it. Heavens, why is it like this? You really don't get any feeling that you're about to advance. Huang Yueli was despondent as she blinked her large eyes while staring at Li Moying. Li Moying shook his head at her while feeling funny. Nope, really no signs of advancement at all. But why is it that you're even more impatient than me? Huang Yueli heard that and rolled her eyes at him. I'm worried about you. Forget it if you don't feel grateful at all. Don't. I appreciate it. Why won't it? Li Moying hurriedly pulled her from behind, pulling her into his embrace as he said in a deep voice, but there's no other way out even if I'm feeling anxious. There is definitely something which we hadn't thought of. Perhaps the promotion of the cultivation of this refinement is limited. Huang Yueli frowned. How could this be possible? According to Sage Wu Ding's manuscript, when he shut himself into close-door cultivation, his cultivation was already at 9th stage realm peak. Even so, he was still able to find a chance for breakthrough in the refinement grounds. Whereas for you, you're not even at 8th stage realm yet, so how could you possibly meet with a restriction? Li Moying replied, what you said seems reasonable. What do you mean by seems? It's very reasonable, all right. Huang Yueli bit her lips as she frowned and thought for a moment. Suddenly her eyes lit up. Right, now I remember. Recently we had been searching on the outer boundary for magical beasts and had not stepped into the core region. You definitely need to penetrate deep inwards before you'd get the chance to break through. She turned back and grabbed Li Moying's lapel as she cried out excitedly, what are you still waiting for? Let's change our direction. You can also listen on. Huang Yueli had always been action-packed, and the minute she finished her words, she prepared to set off immediately. Whoever knew that the man behind her didn't move an inch as his muscular and powerful arm was locked tightly on her waist, not allowing her to leave. Huang Yueli turned back her head in astonishment and saw Li Moying gazing deeply at her. You, what's wrong with you? Li Moying opened his mouth calmly. The magical beasts are already 7th tier, and if we head deeper in any further, the magical beasts tier would definitely be much higher. It's too dangerous. Huang Yueli quipped curiously. That's of course. Exactly, because those magical beasts tiers are much higher, which is why they will be able to give you more profound energy. Although it's dangerous, but in order to boost your ability, it's worth it to take this risk. You aren't someone who is afraid of the slightest thing usually. Why? Her words came out halfway and she suddenly understood what was going on. Actually you knew long ago that you need to head in deeper into the refinement grounds before you can advance, right? Is it because my ability is too weak hence I'm dragging you down so you're not willing to enter? When Li Moying heard these words, his sharp brows creased together as the arm which locked onto her grew tighter as he lowered his head unpleasantly while blowing air into her ear. Since when have you dragged me down? If it wasn't for you, I'd had been heavily injured on several occasions when I accidentally trodden into the mechanisms which the Cloudy Chilean clan's seniors set up. But what? Li Moying suddenly leaned in close to her face as his scorching warm breath blasted against her delicate face. Huang Yueli suddenly saw the magnified face in front of her and her face let her down and flushed a shade of red. Her large eyes blinked. Li Moying gave a light laugh. Be obedient, Leah, you have to trust me. Saying that he closed his eyes slightly as he leaned in closer to Huang Yueli. Just as their lips were about to stick to each other, Huang Yueli suddenly regained his senses as she shoved his face to one side. You, stop thinking of using the handsome male scheme. I'm telling you, I won't fall for it. Huang Yueli raised her chin as she cried out unconvincingly. Heaven knew that she almost got hooked earlier, forgetting the important matter. This man was simply too scheming. She bit her lip and emphasized, "You're acting like that because I've said out your inner thoughts, so you're trying to divert the topic, eh? No way, you can't go on like this. The magical beasts on the outer region area already almost all killed by us, so you can't continue wasting time like this." Li Moying was seen through by her as he could only helplessly shook his head. "Then what do you want to do? I know your potential far surpasses an ordinary 5th stage realm practitioner, and you are even able to fight with a 7th-tiered magical beast. But there's a what if for everything. What if something happened to you? Have you considered how worried I am?" His vision filled with condemnation fell onto Huang Yueli. Huang Yueli started feeling a sense of guilt from his gaze. But after a moment later, she suddenly recalled something as she said, "Even if you're worried about me, we still need to enter the refinement grounds inner region. If we continue staying in the outer region, your ability will not be able to ascend, then how will we leave this ghastly place? So evidently, in order to pass through the refinement successfully, you must go into the inner region of the refinement grounds eventually. There's no meaning in dragging on time like now." Li Moying uncontrollably frowned. Of course he knew that what Huang Yueli said was right. But the problem now was, Huang Yueli's weaker cultivation wasn't the only problem, she was also a practitioner from the sacred phoenix race. You can also listen on. As a member of the family feud clan of Cloudy Chelene clan, Huang Yueli's suppression of her ability in the Cloudy Chelene mystic region would probably only allow her to display around 70% of her total battle power. In such a dangerous place like the valley, her cultivation was also one of the weaker one. Even if she tried her utmost best, she might not be able to guarantee her own safety, moreover when her battle power had been suppressed. Furthermore, he was worried that if this refinement grounds repelled people from the sacred phoenix race, would Huang Yueli be hurt because of this? In this way, how could Li Moying possibly rest his mind and go ahead with his experience learning? As a man who loved his wife more than his own life, Li Moying felt that his own ability's advancement as compared to his fiancée's safety, it really wasn't important at all. Huang Yueli looked at his expression and knew what he was thinking of. Her mind turned quickly and a light bulb lit up as she suddenly cried out, "I've got it. How about this? Leave your little Chelene to me. It is a genuine thunder-attributed spiritual beast, so although it's still young, but the spiritual beast or coming from it is still there. It should have some deterrent force against those thunder-attributed high-tiered magical beasts." Li Moying's eyes lit up. "You're right, how come I didn't think of it? Perhaps it's because you haven't contracted a magical beast for a very long time." Li Moying smiled. "I'll let it out right now. But its age is still very tender and still in an infancy stage, so its ability is limited, so don't you bully it." Huang Yueli's lips pursed in unhappiness as she gave him a stare upon hearing his words. "What do you mean by that? Since when had I ever bullied it? I've always been the gentle, lovable and amiable mistress, all right?" Li Moying shook his head wordlessly as he recalled the last time of little Chelene's terrible state when it was molested by her throughout its entire body, as he couldn't help but shed a sympathy tear for this little thing. But, no matter how pitiful this little thing was, the mistress of the house had her own commands, so as the #1 future wife chitties, he could only betray it to please his fiancée. Very soon, little Chelene was summoned out. Its character was lively and sticky, so when it saw Li Moying, it immediately pounced over and leaned towards his neck as it kept rubbing against him. It really liked this handsome and suave master. It felt that he was more handsome than the previous old man master by 1 to 10,000 times. Li Moying was rubbing the little thing's spine, apparently adoring it very much, totally not sensing that he had been taken advantage of by an immature spiritual beast. The man and beast were acting intimately when little Chelene suddenly felt a chill running down its spine. Following that, it sensed someone lifting it up and brought to an embrace. Ayo, exactly this little thing. It seemed to have grown slightly larger a little than the last time we saw it. Its profound energy fluctuations also seemed to have grown stronger. "Come, let sister check if you're grown fatter." Huang Yueli's sneaky hand stretched out towards little Chiline's tummy as she pressed on it to rub it. Little Chiline was almost about to cry out. Mamma mia, really so hateful, so horrifying. It was actually ravaged by a little Lolita from the sacred phoenix race. What was most scary of it all was that its master had no intention of saving it. Not bad, this little thing indeed has a powerful kind of presence. Even though it hasn't grown up fully, but ancient spiritual beasts indeed live up to their name. Li Moying continued speaking. Later when we enter the inner region of the refinement grounds, you definitely have to bring this little thing along. Ordinary magical beasts would not dare to approach you. You can also listen on. Huang Yueli nodded her head obediently, expression that she would listen to him. Li Moying then let her go as he held her little hand and headed towards the inner region of the refinement grounds. A month later, the duo had already headed several miles towards the core region of the refinement grounds. As what they had initially expected, every time they advanced towards the core region, the power of the magical beasts which they met would increase in strength. This power was strong, and not only was it expressed in the grade and profound energy, it was also reflected on the magical beasts' attack power, defense, and speed. Luckily, Huang Yueli had little Chiline in her arms, and it had an intimidating effect on most magical beasts. A large portion of the magical beast, when they caught a whiff of little Chiline's presence, they would automatically stop far away or even turn around and ran off. A few of them even prowled down far away, showing their respect to little Chiline. But Li Moying entering the refinement grounds inner region was to increase his ability, so this scene wasn't something which he wanted to see. Hence he could only pull a distance away from Huang Yueli as he charged into the depths of the valley. Huang Yueli carried little Chiline as she set off on a steady pace, following behind him while occasionally striking out those star-struck magical beasts, absorbing the profound energy from their body or stopping to collect those ores or medicinal herbs along the roadside casually. Seeing its own master walking further and further away, as though he was about to disappear into the wilderness, little Chiline was extremely anxious. Help! Master, you can't abandon me like this. Couldn't you see this fiendish female demon about to deal a heavy move on your baby here? Little Chiline tried its best to wave its little claws, trying to struggle free from Huang Yueli's arms, as it didn't mind exhausting all of its profound energy, as the pressurizing aura it gave out became stronger and stronger. Under this pressure, not one magical beast could be seen around several miles near Huang Yueli. However, Huang Yueli herself didn't lay down limp on the ground like what little Chiline hoped. In fact, the hand which carried little Chiline didn't even show any signs of shaking. She caressed little Chiline's scales as her eyes turned into crescent moon shape as she smiled sweetly. Wafacai, your ability is becoming strong and stronger. My Wang Cai is much bigger than you, but in terms of the same attribute magical beast aura, it totally cannot be compared to you. You indeed have great innate talent. Quickly let sister give you a kiss. Little Chiline, or who was Wang Cai? Just as it was in a daze, Huang Yueli had already lifted it up, towards her face. Little Chiline finally reacted as it tried its best to struggle, but it was still forcefully kissed by the sacred phoenix race's female demon. Little Chiline was inconsolable with grief and indignation. Why didn't its master care about it? Why did he leave it in the hands of the female demon? What was most infuriating was that this female demon's soul trace was so powerful that she actually wasn't affected by its pressurizing aura. She was obviously only in the 5th stage realm. Little Chiline was still young, hence it wasn't able to deduce that Huang Yueli's innate talent was also god grade. She was also one of the top super geniuses in sacred phoenix race. Spiritual beasts' infants mostly had powerful innate talents, but the abilities were very ordinary. They mainly relied on their innate bloodline to intimidate other magical beasts and people. But when they met with god-grade geniuses in terms of bloodline, they could only tuck their tails between their legs and wait to be contracted. Hence when little Phoenix Wang Cai saw Li Moying, it acted like it was a mouse meeting a cat. Hence little Chiline's bitter experience wasn't just a chance event. You can also listen on. Huang Yueli had been teasing little Cheline as she slowly walked towards the deep end of the valley. The further she walked, the more careful she became. Because little Cheline was still in its infancy stage, so although it had a natural-born awe, but it didn't have the corresponding ability. Magical beasts' grades which were slightly lower were easily scared off by it, but magical beasts in 8th or 9th grades weren't that easy to deal with. Especially for 9th grade magical beasts, some of them had an instinct in their bones to want to challenge the spiritual beasts. On seeing little Cheline, they might not even ride or hide. On the contrary, they might just rush up for a challenge. On their way, there were many high-grade magical beasts' carcasses. Initially it was all 7th grade, but as they continued to walk, 8th grade magical beasts' carcass started to appear, and further up, there were even a few 9th grade magical beasts with 0 stars. Some bluish-purple light balls were still floating on top of these carcasses, apparently left behind by Li Moying for her. Huang Yueli's lips rose as she stretched out her hand and waved, while immodestly taking it all in. After all, she was a 9th grade talent in thunder attribute, hence when thunder attributed profound energy entered her body, it made the profound energy within her median expanded by a large chunk in an instance, as her body was filled with abundant profound energy, almost seeping out. As there was too much profound energy and it was too pure, when it entered her dantian, it seemed like a hot knife through butter as it easily charged through the advancement channel. Huang Yueli immediately sat down and worked up her cultivation method. Not long after, she broke through the 5th stage realm 6th level checkpoint. She opened her eyes and looked upwards, as she thought little Cheline would have taken the opportunity while she wasn't noticing and had escaped as it worked its short legs, trying its very best to seek its master to save it. In the end, the truth was that little thing sprawled on the ground, totally not moving as its body was shrouded with a bluish-purple dim light. Apparently the energy in the light balls could be absorbed by little Cheline as well. But this little thing was a tad too greedy, as it forgot to take into consideration that it was still very young and unable to absorb so much energy at one go, which would cause indigestion. Hence it was giving off this intoxicated look. Huang Yueli grabbed the soft scale on the back of its neck as she lifted it up. This is the result of eating on the sly, understand? Quickly say 100 times that this sister is the most beautiful and most adorable, then I'll help you absorb off the excess profound energy. Little Cheline lifted up its eyelids as it looked at her in indignation. Or, profiteering while it was down, how utterly shameless. Huang Yueli's brows rose and was just about to continue teasing this little thing. Suddenly an earth-shattering explosion was heard not too far away and the ground kept on shaking. Huang Yueli missed a step and almost fell flat on her face as she swayed around. She finally managed to steady herself as she raised her head up and saw bolts after bolts of lightning in the sky, striking downwards continuously. The surrounding thunder attributed profound energy seemed to be led by an invisible big hand, as it flowed towards the valley's deepest end. Huang Yueli's expression changed. No good. Could Li Moying have met with trouble? She picked up little Cheline with one hand and ran towards the inner region of the refinement ground. She ran on for quite a while before she found herself in the center position of the valley. Li Moying had already killed off a large portion of the magical beasts in the refinement grounds in the inner region within a short span of 1 month and directly threaded into the deepest core region of the entire territory. On her way running over, there were very few magical beasts' carcasses. There were a total of slightly over 10 carcasses and every single one gave off a shockingly powerful aura. You can also listen on. The nearer the core, the stronger the magical beast's ability. Without any exception, all of these were the existing leaders among the 9th grade magical beast. Furthermore, from the injuries on these magical beasts, it looked different from those low-grade magical beasts, all of them which died under one blow or within a few blows. But the injuries on these carcasses were extremely heterogeneous as the slashes were all disorderly. It was easy to tell that they had gone through a tough battle before they laid down in extreme irreconciliation under Li Moying's sword. Huang Yueli knew that the further she delved in, the more dangerous it would get, so every single step she took was with utmost prudence as she surveyed the surrounding situation. After walking in for a distance, she finally met Li Moying. That man was dressed in a black-colored long robe and he was shrouded by electricity currents. Behind him was a pair of huge thunder wings as it stretched outwards, causing his body to float in mid-air and his speed increased by a huge margin. Right now, he was facing 3 ninth grade magical beast. 9th grade magical beast's battle power far surpasses 9th stage realm practitioners, and even for Murongda, that kind of long-established top expert, wanting to kill a 9th grade magical beast was an extremely tough mission to undertake. Whereas right now, Li Moying was facing a total of 3 such magical beast. When Huang Yueli saw this, her expression turned grave. She could sense the profound energy fluctuations from Li Moying, and it was still in 7th stage realm peak condition, but the profound energy in him was filled to an incredulous stage, ready to charge to an even higher realm anytime. But Li Moying seemed to be seeking a perfect breakthrough, hence, he had been suppressing his profound energy. Huang Yueli's scope was high, and that was naturally understandable. Li Moying wanted to use the difficult battles to purify his own profound energy to be even purer, so that when he advanced, it would make his foundation even more secure, hence making up for the impact of his speedy advancement during this period. But in this way, his situation was even more precarious. 7th stage realm peak, against 3 ninth grade magical beasts. Even for Huang Yueli, who deeply understood his ability and potential, broke out in cold sweat for him. The battle was extremely intense, and Li Moying was facing magical beasts group attack which had far surpassed his own. It could be described as him being surrounded by perils, and he sustained several serious injuries. Not only was his body filled with ghastly injuries, there was once when he was even struck flying off while throwing up blood. Seeing that handsome-looking face turning paler by the minute, Huang Yueli's heart wrenched into a bundle. If possible, she would love to rush up immediately, rendering aid to Li Moying. Even if her ability couldn't match up to his, or she might even face the danger of being killed by those magical beasts, she would not hesitate to do so. But right now, she could not go over. Because Li Moying's motive was refinement, and for him to break through, the chance would only appear in a life-and-death situation, hence he took the risks out of desperation, risking all he had to challenge magical beasts whose abilities were far stronger than his own. She could not spoil this man's plan. Furthermore, she and Li Moying had gone through many experience learning before, and those years of experience told her that this man had never left her disappointed. Every single time, he was able to win himself while obtaining achievements and breakthroughs which ordinary people could hardly imagine. As what she hoped, even after Li Moying had been forced to retreat several times by the magical beasts, but there wasn't a single time when he had turned weak or given up hope. However, it spiked his determination, as there was an inexhaustible supply of the profound energy in him as it flooded out. You can also listen on. Moreover, the electric current surrounding him had slowly turned from bluish-purple into a pure purple color. It was extremely eye-catching and extremely dazzling. The speed of his moves were extremely fast, as the hand which gripped his sword became even stable. Eventually, after sustaining the bitter battle for several hours, Li Moying successfully killed those 3 magical beasts to obtain the final victory. He gave a long huff as he felt the profound energy within his body was almost depleted and his body was about to collapse. Just as he felt totally drained of energy, he suddenly heard a shrill coming from his back not too far away. Moying, are you all right? Are you hurt anywhere? The familiar sweet voice was filled with worry. Li Moying turned back in a hurry and saw a petite young lady speeding towards him as she pounced into his arms. He originally didn't have much energy left, and after being pounced on by her, he fell back totally. The two of them fell onto the ground. Hey! Huang Yueli fell onto his chest and her face was totally embarrassed as she pushed his chest and tried to get up. Whoever knew, this push coincidentally hurt his wound, making him suck in deeply as his face contorted in pain. Huang Yueli immediately got tensed. There are so many wounds on you and it's all so deep. Earlier you threw up blood as well. Are you internally injured as well? Quickly take the medicinal pills, I'll bandage up your wounds. She hastily retrieved the ceramic bottles as she poured out the medicinal pills, stuffing it into his mouth in handfuls. After that she took out the ointment for external injuries and treated his wounds. Li Moying obediently let her do as she wished as his lips revealed a smile. To be tended to so anxiously by his beloved woman, anyone would feel extremely happy. Suddenly he sensed a slight pain on his thigh as he hurriedly lowered his head to take a look. Little Chelene squatted along his thigh as its little claw kept rubbing against his feet, using its gem-shaped large eyes brimming with tears as it looked at him in grievance. On seeing Li Moying noticing it, little Chelene immediately used its claw to point towards Huang Yueli, as though it was complaining about him it had been tortured by her. Li Moying gave a light laugh as he shook his head and stretched out his hand, placing it on top of little Chelene's head. Just at that moment, a bright ray of light flashed past both of them, and that ray of light was simply too bright, so striking that the two of them weren't able to open their eyes. What's going on? Huang Yueli covered her eyes. I don't know. Stay close to me a little, be careful. Li Moying stretched out his arm to grip her wrist and at the same time, putting on a secured front immediately, prepared to continue battling anytime. But after the bright light disappeared, the two of them discovered that a stone tablet appeared right in front of them. This stone tablet was extremely grand and ancient. It was a huge block of rectangle like a tall mountain standing right in front of the two of them, steady and firm. The entire stone tablet was refined out of an extremely special material. The black stone radiated a bluish-purple color, making it seem even more mysterious and dangerous. This material was something which even Huang Yueli had not seen before. But she judged that this was a kind of higher-tier thunder-attributed material where its tier was even higher than 9th grade. The two of them exchanged an astonished glance. Li Moying frowned slightly as he sized up this piece of stone tablet. What is this thing? Why did it suddenly appear out of nowhere? You can also listen on. Huang Yueli was also observing the stone tablet. The material used to create this stone tablet is simply a perfect thunder-attributed materia. Have you noticed that every inch of the stone tablet was overflowing with a powerful thunder-attributed energy, but it had totally been enveloped up without any bit of it being leaked out? I wonder where the Cloudy Chelene clan found this material from, and if I can just break off a small piece from it. Li Moying's brows twitched. His Leah was simply an armament weapon nut. Every time she saw some material, she would hope to dig it out to hide it. Huang Yueli went round the stone tablet once and suddenly cried out excitedly. Moying, quickly take a look. The other side of the stone tablet has a Chelene totem inscribed on. This should be an important mechanism of the Cloudy Chelene clan, right? Li Moying hurriedly chased up to her as he turned to the other side. An extremely large Chelene totem was inscribed on that entire piece of stone tablet. This Chelene was not only large, but also looked extremely real and lively, perfectly reliving the Chelene visual image which he and Huang Yueli had seen in Sage Wu Ding's cave. Furthermore, from the thunder-attributed energy in the stone tablet, this Chelene's surroundings gave off a powerful energy, as though it was going to jump out from the stone tablet the very next moment, coming to life. Even little Chelene pounced over excitedly, as though it had seen its relative. Huang Yueli continued talking. I've once seen this same kind of huge spiritual beast totem in the Sacred Phoenix Race's inheritance tower, but the totem for Sacred Phoenix Race is a phoenix. Looks like these God Realm large families have the habit of rearing the spiritual beasts and using them as their clan's symbolic representation. Li Moying turned around and asked, since you've seen a similar totem previously, then do you know what this is used for? Huang Yueli started to contemplate as she said a while later, the last time I entered was the inheritance tower. Could it be that this stone tablet is also used for inheritance? Speaking of this, have you noticed it yet? We've already delved deep into the hinterland of the valley, so this should be the most central position of the valley. This stone tablet appearing right here definitely had its uses. Li Moying muttered softly. In this case, when I walked over earlier, at the position of the stone tablet, there were 3 magical beasts prowling here. I originally wanted to lure them away individually to kill them, but in the end, all 3 magical beasts noticed me quickly and all of them came right up together. Looks like this isn't by chance. Only after defeating these 3 9th grade magical beasts would this stone tablet descend at this place. When Huang Yueli heard that, she clapped her palms hard. That's right. This stone tablet must be the reward for the refinement. Reward? Li Moying frowned. What kind of reward is this? Surely it can't be like what you said, to knock down this stone tablet and bring it back, right? Huang Yueli shot him a glance and lifted up her chin with a pampered arrogant look. Look at you, you don't even know all these. Do you even need to ask this kind of question? Li Moying looked at him in amusement but without a smile as he replied to her, full of indulgence, I indeed don't understand, so will Grandmaster Huang please teach me? Huang Yueli then replied, actually it's very simple. The last time I saw the totem on the door of the inheritance tower, and that time I had no way to open up that door. But later, after I injected my own blood into it, filling up all the chinks of the totem entirely, then the door immediately opened up. Li Moying went into a blank. You mean, my meaning is, the totem should be related to bloodline, so you can try smearing your blood on it to try and see what effect it would produce. You can also listen on. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.